Hello, today is February 2nd. This is your 2-week reminder that you guys have Valentine's Day coming up. And today we're doing government, business, and I think AI and robot. Did I get that right?
It's because business gets its own day tomorrow. We're going to talk about the GameStop thing. Don't worry. But for today, it's government.
We got one story about that in government. Do you think, will there be a post-Valentine's new wave, new spike?
Yes. Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think people will go out? I mean,
Yeah.
I say that.
I don't know if they'll go out,
know.
Krista, but I think they might exchange fluids.
Oh.
That's something to look forward to, I guess. But here's something that maybe you shouldn't look forward to. I don't know. I mean, some people seem to support this, but it's weird because this one very polarizing political figure popularized this, and the other side kind of ran against it. But now
Biden's commerce nominee backs changes to Section 230. Wait, what? Section 230? That's the thing that protects online providers from the horrible things that people say and do with their service.
So, yeah, that she doesn't go as far as repeal, which was Trump's thing. But there is a quote in here about how Biden denounced Trump's plan, but supports the spirit of it. So it's like,
What's that mean?
she says that there needs to be some conversation about how to protect the user, but also the tech companies can't be put out of business. There's really nothing here to this. There's no substance. But
The death of Section 230 cements the monopoly position of incumbents. Like, there's no other way around it. That's sort of the opposite of what we need. We need 17 competing Twitters.
oh, we're working on it. The problem is, if one of them gets popular with the wrong kind of people,
They just deplatform.
it has to be destroyed. So it's tough. It's tough business to get into. One business, though, that is getting easier and easier as time progresses is law enforcement. Why? Well, because the whole, investigating and finding clues and tying things together,
You could just buy that data.
there's no time for that.
Intelligence analysts use U.S. smartphone location data without warrants, Memo says, the New York Times. This is a little bit follow-up. We've mentioned this before. This is Ron Wyden and all that kind of stuff. But there's actually a lot of new information here.
We didn't know how bad it was.
Well, yeah. It turns out that a lot of government agencies are just buying the data. So they can't get a warrant to get this data. But it turns out this data is commercially available. You remember when just anybody could buy your cell phone bill? Like, I could just call up AT&T and be like, hey, I've got this phone number. I'd like to buy a copy of their bill, which usually would have itemized lists of all the numbers you called. That was totally legal until people started doing that with Congress critters. And then they were like, wait a minute, we should probably fix that. This is kind of like
okay.
that. Yeah, except for all the other data.
So this was a Fed agency, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but you get the idea. It's sort of like a Homeland Security type of deal, the investigative portion of that. And we're not sure, but there was some speculation in the article. It's like, wait a minute. Is this who was buying the Muslim data from the prayer apps?
Turns out.
Because that's who these people might be going after.
Yeah.
So that's not a good look. And I'm sure it won't stop.
And this is also not the last, as we say every time we talk about this is not the last time we're going to hear about this because it was already more prevalent than you knew.
And this is the only story. Of course, we will cover this in the business section because this certainly dominated the headlines, didn't it? But the only one we've got in government has to do with some of the lawmakers actually coming to the aid of the common man. Imagine that. And one of my least favorite, but you got to give her credit for this one.
AOC and Ted Cruz slam Robinhood for freezing some trades amid GameStop vulnerability. Oh, man, I can't wait to talk about GameStop. That's in the next episode. But how messed up of a situation is it? I mean, just step back for a second. AOC and Ted Cruz on the same side of an issue?
But did you see
And
the
Bernie
follow-up?
Sanders.
No.
She rejected him completely. She said, you tried to kill me. So she wouldn't. No bipartisan politics under this administration at all. Not that we had a lot last time either. And the FTC is finally stepping in.
Are they, though?
Well, they're the number's pretty small. And did you get the line in here where it was like, no, we fined them tens of millions of dollars, and it was like, but they couldn't pay it, so we waived it.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. Well, but they would make this amount of money from the fine on just one Elton John venue. So,
Also, Elton John is looking rough here.
yeah.
He's
FTC fines 3 ticket scalping companies for illegally using bots. The 3 will pay a total of $3.7 million. Did some quick math on the local super arena, number of seats, average ticket price from the last time Elton John was there. And yeah, $3.7 million is about the amount of money that they would make on just one engagement. So I feel like this is a win for them.
kind of looks like Janet Reno from the Clinton administration. Remember Janet Reno?
I wonder what she's up to these days. I wonder if she's looking around at the modern political landscape and is just like, what is this?
If we can believe in karma and, you know, universal justice, the answer to that question is burning in hell. Every day she lives in a little shack in hell, and every day someone sieges it and burns it down.
Then she wakes up it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. So yeah, a light touch, 31.6 million in fines goes to 3.7 million. That's like 10%.
Yeah. It seems like their business model would be just built with paying the fines in mind, and they would just keep doing it.
Right. And Bitcoin actually, because of the events of the past week, Bitcoin kind of languished a little bit. I think it's up today, though, as we're filming this.
It went down, and then it started to come back up.
And so I think for a while there, the alternative investors had something else to do. But it doesn't mean that Bitcoin isn't still slowly moving into more acceptance.
Yahoo Finance has the very strange story about Miami uploading a Bitcoin white paper to their municipal website. It just answers some common questions about Bitcoin, how it works, how it's used for transactions, and drugs.
The picture they picked for this article, it kind of looks like a bro explaining Bitcoin to you.
That's basically what it is.
Bruh, it's an alternative currency.
They talk about how they're trying to sort of revamp Miami and make it into a technology destination. Everybody's trying to pick up California's leavings. You know, everybody's leaving California, so hey, can we get some of those? Can we import some tech workers instead of just the usual cocaine all day long?
But Florida is full of people that are maxed out on crazy pills.
Oh, you can be
It's
a
also
crazy
going to be like
programmer.
underwater. It's hurricanes. I ain't about that.
You telling me
Wouldn't attract
California
this
doesn't have its share of crazy pills?
That's Adderall. That's different.
different kind of crazy. I guess they have fires in California, and then there's massive hurricanes in Florida. Pick
I
your
wonder,
poison.
do we have the data for mood equalizers by state prescriptions?
Oh man, that would be amazing. We should build that website.
I want to see that, chat. This is a headline that you're sure to think, hey, we've seen this before. Yeah, you've seen it so many times. It seems like one after another, at this time, the European countries are just simply getting in line.
Apple hit with another European class action lawsuit over throttled iPhones. This time Italy. We've covered this a lot in the past, but basically older iPhones, the battery gets a little bit weak. The CPU can have a sudden demand for power that the battery can't supply, so Apple errs egregiously on the side of caution and basically slows the phone down so that the CPU will never demand a lot of power. Of course, the user perceives that as the phone has slowed down. There are some technical reasons for this, but really Apple should just make the battery more easily user replaceable.
60 million euros. They calculate that based on the 60 euro per affected user number in Italy.
You know, a replacement battery is only like $10 if it was easy to replace.
If it was easy to replace, they wouldn't be able to sell you a new one every year.
There's the rub.
If it was easy to replace, then that battery would be, DRM'd. And then the Apple battery would cost whatever the
$50 or
repair
whatever.
cost plus the cost of the battery. And you still have to do it yourself.
It would cost the margin of a new iPhone, so they make the same amount of money either way. God, that is infuriating. I recently replaced a battery in an iPhone 6 something, and it did feel like a new phone after I replaced the battery. I expected it to be a little bit faster, but like just in Safari, moving around web pages, it felt completely different.
Botnets. Botnets were really popular during the pandemic. People had a lot of time, and everybody else was online. Hey, let's create a botnet. But more and more, authorities have started to go after the control servers. They're getting really good at tracking those down.
Authorities plan to mass uninstall Emotet from infected hosts on April 25th, 2021. Now, there may be other secondary infections, but they've got control out of 2 of the 3 command and control servers, and they've already delivered the time-bombed payload. So this payload is already there. It's just waiting for time to pass. And it was in the Netherlands, I think, that these 2 of the 3. But the Netherlands police force, I got to give them props. They're doing a good job.
They arrested some people somewhere else, though. I can't remember where it was.
It was a multi-country operation. It sounded like they had arrests all over.
One in particular. It was Eastern European, I think. You also can watch this video of them taking down. Oh, this is Ukraine. It was in Ukraine. You can actually watch a video of them busting the apartment where they found the hackers that were running the Emotet. Some of them, at least. If you like to watch that sort of thing, I do, usually. The EU lawmakers, we see week after week a new thing they're bringing against big tech. You know, obviously the Apple story we just covered. And I think they're just gearing up. They're like, okay, we're going to throw a lot of stuff at you all at once. And they have now commanded the presence of the tech titans.
EU lawmakers want Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google CEOs at a February 1st hearing. What are they going to talk about? User data, ads, and tracking. Don't expect that to go well.
Here's a question. I mean, these guys are billionaires, obviously. It doesn't matter. But do they offer to pay for your travel and accommodations when they summon you like that?
Probably.
You think so?
Probably.
You think taxpayers?
That's a courtesy.
You think Zuckerberg's getting a per diem?
It's probably not much.
From the EU taxpayers.
I mean, I think this is going to be one of those things where it's like, listen, you've got to do this. This is what we want you to do. And it's going to cost a lot and you're not going to want to do it. But if you make us do this in law, it's going to be a lot worse.
And perhaps a good example of that, or at least the stalemate that can result from that, is going down in the land down under.
Google threatens to remove search as Australian row deepens. So that means that Google and Australia are in a deep disagreement. And Google's like, you know what? We're going to pull our products from Australia. Don't care.
And Australia says, you won't.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I want to see this. I bet it'll be great. This would actually be great for entrepreneurial Australia.
But here's the thing, and this story came out the exact same day. I feel like Australia is going to have a pretty good argument in its back pocket during this whole standoff, considering
Google has agreed to pay French news sites to send them traffic. The French agreement could become a template for similar deals across Europe. I clicked through the links. I tried to find the actual deal, and I read some things that were translated from French. And the terms of the deal, the actual, is not actually a thing that I could find.
It's really weird, some of the arguments that they made here from the French side, because it was like, okay, look, these news providers are giving you content, so you cannot use their content unless you pay them. And Google was like, all right, you know what? We're not going to use the snippets anymore. We're just going to link people to their site, because that's what we've always done. And they came back and they were like, no, you're using your monopoly power by excluding them, by not giving their snippets. You have to give their snippets. And they're like, well, but
sounds like you just want money.
It'll be
no way to win.
It'll be interesting to see what happens when this goes to the Supreme Court of the European Union.
Or Australia.
Or Australia.
Here's a terrifying, moving into security, here's a terrifying thing that, of course we know this happens constantly, but I try to be very, very, very careful about the apps I put in my phone. But I have this one, and it's like, oh,
I do.
Now I can't use it. Unless I can turn this off, and the app will still run without the microphone permission. Now I got to change services?
New Spotify patent involves monitoring users' speech to recommend music. So does this could be a little bit racist, don't you think? Because it's like,
how about that's a hate crime?
Oh yeah, gender, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
It's gonna discriminate us against us for our Appalachian accents and only recommend Bill Monroe.
Once again, big technology is run amok.
Only country music for you, sir.
You think that based on my intonations and accent and stuff, it would ever suss out that I love early 90s gangster rap,
No.
then what's the use of it?
This man sounds like he's angry against the system. Let's really push this.
Well, if it listens to me while I'm driving, it will certainly think that. The anti-encryption deal, it rages on. We haven't heard as much about it. Have you heard? Has Biden said anything about his position on it? I think he's just quietly going to let it happen.
Not like he's been busy with a lot of other things. Yeah, well, I mean, no, he's actually been like signing a lot of
Oh yeah,
orders.
he's been bypassing the checks and balances like crazy. But the EU, they are also very interested in destroying privacy, and a couple of companies whose existence depends on that tried to speak some reason to them. Do you think any of them read more than 5 words?
Nope.
Absolutely not.
ProtonMail, Threema, Tresorit, and Tutanota warn EU lawmakers over anti-encryption push. Basically, these companies are saying what we always say, which is the backdoor can't discern between good guys and bad guys. Once the backdoor details are known, you're going to have millions, potentially billions of devices or users that are unpatched for a time. So building a backdoor is inherently dangerous. It's like chimps with machine guns.
Here's a terrifying one. And, the old update now warning? Yeah, update now. Because this was a very, very serious flaw that was uncovered.
Yeah. 10-year-old Sudo bug lets Linux users gain root level access. I always say Sudo. Like super user do this. But this was actually discovered a decade ago, and it was never properly patched. So this was probably very subtle manipulation by an intelligence agency, hoping that no one would notice, and no one noticed for 10 years.
It's Baron Samedit. Get it? Edit? So yeah, if even if they were not in your sudo file, as long as the sudo file existed, they could escalate and put themselves in it.
Yay, heap overflows.
And we often talk about some of these far-fetched security risks probably don't affect most of you, probably don't affect us either. But some people who might get targeted by hackers with a lot of power behind them, money behind them, should be concerned about that. And here's a good situation where that might come up.
North Korean hackers have targeted security researchers via social media. Google Tag warns that researchers need to be on the lookout when approached by unknown individuals on social media. Some of them on Twitter posted some of the direct messages they received. And it's kind of credible, because this is normally the kind of thing that happens. It's like, let's say that I'm working on something and I discover that there's a flaw, say in the Windows kernel. It's like, oh, hey, I've got a 0-day bug in the Windows kernel with privilege escalation. I want to work with a researcher to exploit it. Well, you can sometimes get more intelligence. You can sometimes use that to take over somebody else's stuff, see what they're working on, which is often less effort than developing your own exploits.
Although it was a Visual Studio installer that they would try to poison you with, if you're a security researcher, you fall for that?
Well, sometimes you run it in a virtual machine or whatever. Some of the researchers that did this were like, yeah, I downloaded it and ran it in a sandbox. But
I mean, it seems like a pretty primitive attack considering your target audience.
Well, it was both primitive and sophisticated, because this really was a 0-day in the Windows kernel, which is pretty difficult to find these days.
Now, do you think that the North Korean hackers actually wear these robes during their hacking? And what would you have to do to be the one with the white hood and star? Is he the number one?
You're like the rising star at Cracker Barrel. More stars on your robe. The longer you're there.
Every time you take down a hospital, they give you another star.
Oh, no.
Oh, congratulations, you've subverted an election. Here's your star. Do you think they give out free apple butter over at the North Korean hacking facility?
No,
that's all they eat.
I think food is in very short supply in North Korea, so maybe wooden apples.
If you've been locked down during the pandemic and with the 2021 coming about, you're like, I'm going to find love in 2021. I hope you didn't use this particular website for that search.
Hacker released data of 2.28 million dating site users. Data belonging to the dating site Meet Mindful, and includes everything from real names to Facebook account tokens to email addresses and geolocation information.
Here's a shock.
Yikes.
Can you believe that the person leaking this information has an anime avatar.
I was about to make the same joke. I was like, I know what you think about people with anime avatars.
This might confirm it. It's a pretty good list of stuff they got here, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your location data is pretty bad. Body details. Wonder what that is.
Is that like,
Your
I'm
measurements?
totally 6 foot, well, I don't know. Do they put that on a dating site?
I guess it depends on the site, right?
I'm thankful I never had to do that because it sounds like a nightmare doing the whole dating site thing.
And even if you were very careful with your personal data and you don't, sign up for sites like that, you don't use Spotify, there are some things that are outside of your control, like the data that they collect on you at the hospital. Because what can you do about that? You don't really have any control over it, and ultimately, it's not safe.
Dutch patient data, people that were affected by the thing that's currently affecting a lot of people, that data was sold on the criminal underground. 2 individuals have been arrested in the Netherlands this week for selling data from the system on Telegram, Snapchat, and Wicker. So this is not actually the hospital that screwed up here. It was the government was possessed with building a database of all their citizens that have been affected during these dark times. And of course, they didn't handle it properly because why would you? Most governments are incompetent.
The 2 guys were not high-level developers.
Yeah.
They were like analysts or something, but for some reason they had access to everything.
Ooh, this is sounding eerily familiar.
So
something we were working on earlier today.
Not a great move. Unfortunate.
Not good.
And when this kind of thing happens, now this wasn't ransomware per se, but it was something like it. And when they get your data, they want you to pay to stop this kind of thing. Now everybody will tell you, don't do it. Don't make the payment. But it turns out if you don't, they will often follow through with their threats.
Ransomware attackers published 4,000 private Scottish government agency files.
Yikes. This is some sort of environmental agency. And they got 1.2 gigabytes of stuff. Now this was like emails and documents and stuff like that. I don't know if there's...
Some of it was non-public. It was like they're investigating company so-and-so for dumping sludge in the river.
It probably wasn't anything that's going to get somebody killed, but certainly not something they wanted the public to have.
Someone opens up one of those documents and they dumped sludge in the wetlands. And then it causes a scandal, but no one actually really cares.
Yeah, those stories haven't been written yet.
Yeah. Or they find out that, they dumped sludge in the wetlands and then they made a sweetheart deal with them and didn't tell the public. They didn't tell the wetlands.
No.
You think this is DNSpooq or DNSpooq?
Ooh. I like Pook because that appeals to my inner 12-year-old more. But
Spook sounds more like it. But anyway, all the DNS caching, and this is not the DNS caching that you're necessarily in control of. This is like really low-level caching in your devices. Well, some bad news.
DNSpooq lets attackers poison DNS cache records. Network administrators urge to apply the latest DNS mask updates to get this rolled out. A lot of ISPs will use DNS masks. DNS masks sometimes run, depending on what kind of a router you have, or even some models of cable modem, they have a version of that built in. I imagine the cable modem users are going to be slow to update. Make sure that you're using a trustworthy DNS server, and also all of your upstream DNS servers are trustworthy. Otherwise, your DNS cache can be poisoned, and you may not be going to the site that you think you are.
Yikes. And this story is interesting. I just swapped this out because the original story was about a hack. However,
it wasn't a hack.
Now we know it was not a hack. It was just a terrible mistake for someone who probably just lost their job.
Intel says it was not hacked after all, blames an internal error for financial results leaking out. So their financial results were actually shockingly good. It was not the doomsday that everybody expected.
It takes time.
It would require a new CEO to come in and just all this stuff. And it leaked out about 3 hours before market close, and they had intended to announce it right after the close of the market. Because that's how you do it.
Maybe it was just a power play.
Could have been.
Maybe they said, you know what? No one is looking at the Intel stock today. No one's going to destroy that. They're busy elsewhere. Let's get this out there. Alexa, people give Alexa a lot of power over their homes. And that's not a smart thing to do at all.
God.
Hey, Alexa, hoover up literally every piece of data that you can possibly squeeze out of your ever-present omniscient speaker.
Well, not even that, but you might be thinking, well, yeah, sure, Alexa can control the devices in my home and the lights and maybe even the thermostat, but she always asks permission. Not anymore.
Amazon's Alexa can now act on its own hunches to turn off the lights and more. So basically, if you set an alarm and you normally, then turn on your light or open a shade or whatever, Alexa will learn this pattern of behavior and just do it for you.
Soon life will just become like trying to outsmart Alexa. You're waking up at random hours, flipping lights on and off.
I like that, but I also don't like that, this is not necessarily necessary for cloud stuff. There's a really killer app called Node-RED that lets you set up all this kind of stuff with your home assistant or your home automation stuff. And it's pretty easy to set up these kinds of complex advanced rules.
Is it more complicated than saying a woman's name?
Yes.
It's not going to catch on. This is
Society is
turn the
doomed.
light on yourself. Yeah.
This is a great story. It's a savage burn, not an overt savage burn, but the dismissal here
Yeah.
is, and I honestly, I think I
probably
agree
worth-
with him.
Yeah.
And I'm biased, but it really does seem like this is the future of it and not that.
Waymo CEO dismisses Tesla self-driving plan. This is just not how it works. Elon Musk and John Krafik have very different theories about driverless tech. So Elon Musk is getting there by using training data from a cajillion users. This guy is a more sort of top-down planned approach where they're doing models and they're putting everything together.
And LiDAR, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
No LiDAR on the Teslas, and this guy's like, you can't do it without that. And there's another savage line in here. Again, just like monotone, he's not angry at all, but he was like, we're doing self-driving, and they're doing vehicle assistance.
Yeah, that's like the same tone as like a teenager saying like, you can't sit with us.
The reality is it's probably going to take both technologies because LiDAR is not going to read road signs.
Why not do both?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they could work together. They won't.
They won't.
No, they won't.
Moving on to robot. This is kind of not quite a robot story, but it does sort of bleed over a little bit from security. And that it has to do with we talk about facial recognition, how powerful it is and how prolific it is. And the thing you have to think about with this story is this is one person with off-the-shelf tools.
Yep.
And no budget.
Yep.
And look what they did. And think about what the government can do.
This site posted every face from Parler's Capitol Hill insurrection videos. So the faces of the riot used open source software to detect, extract, and deduplicate every face. This is the meta conversation. This is an interesting article, and you should read it. But the meta conversation here is, yes, this is absolutely stuff that you can do in an afternoon. I've got, those Tesla V100s. We could get this up and running pretty much immediately. But it's not just the fact that you've got face recognition here. Imagine building a user interface for this. You've got all these grid of faces. Click a face and be able to search through a video real time and see every place in the video, every timestamp, every different file, every different video where that face was seen. Think about adding this to an existing surveillance system. There isn't, a business that already has a surveillance system. If you were to tell them, hey, you can layer on this ability to search, you can see when your employees were in, when they were out, what they were doing, when they were here, when they were there. It's all automated. That is an incredible leap forward in terms of the amount of data that can be stored and retained on your activities in public, which is scary. And probably not right.
God, I know I say this a lot, but weren't some people doing that back during the summer and they said it was evil and racist?
Yeah.
That one seems to be celebrated.
Yeah.
This is exciting because I'm certainly not a big fan of the medical industry. Doctors and other wizards I try to avoid at all costs. But this one is, this is such an easy one to do. Why not?
Cancer can be precisely diagnosed using a urine test with artificial intelligence. So that's neat.
And nearly 100% accuracy. It's something to do with the conductivity of your pee. Certain amount of conductivity reveals bad things. That's unpleasant to think about. And finally, one of the more disturbing ways that AI will change our lives.
This was one of the first projects we planned at Level 1.
But think about, GPT-3 and what we've learned about that.
Yep.
If your loved one produced a lot of written material, and someday spoken word can be added to this, you would probably get a pretty decent representation. It would be terrifying because once in a while they would go off the rails and say things that would just just shock you. But for the most part,
Microsoft Patent plans to shows plans to revive the dead loved ones as chatbots. I think when we were talking about it, it's like we were going to build an interactive headstone. But you see, the data that this comes from, it comes from like Google and Microsoft, who are recording literally everything that you do. Like your Google history, if you turn that on, all your voice recognition, your voice assistant stuff, it can be trained on that. Every email you've ever sent, every voicemail you've ever had. The NSA's probably got every phone call you've ever made. Imagine dumping all of that into this kind of a thing. It would probably be a pretty convincing chatbot.
Yeah, but imagine, you go to grandma's chatbot and you're like, oh, I really miss grandma. But what you didn't know is that grandma's Gmail is just filled with filthy love letters.
Ooh.
And how does the AI know to leave that part of grandma out of your visit?
Grandma's actually Grolic. No.
It's like AI Dungeon where you mention anything even like remotely sexual and it goes into a weird place really fast. Grandma, no.
You keep trying to change the conversation back to something else and she just won't have it.
Ugh.
It's horrifying, but also people that don't understand the magic behind the curtain are going to be absolutely hooked on that, and society's going to collapse.
Yeah. It is fun. And I'd say 5 years, that's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
That we won't be able to differentiate it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting time. But not as interesting as tomorrow during the business section when we talk about the stock market.
The business section, I'll take what can you do that is trashy if you're poor, but classy if you're rich for 200 Alex.
Speak 2 languages.
Manipulate the stock market.
Oh, that's the other one.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a giant list of those things. So we'll see you then.
All right. Tomorrow, I guess. You just said that. Okay, bye.
That's what I was waiting for. You say bye.
I know. Bye. Bye. Let's just bye. Hello, everybody. Today is February 3rd, and today is a weird day in our sorting. You may have noticed Monday or Tuesday, I guess. We did 3 sections. Today is only 1, and it's business. Just all business all day. Sorry.
Business in the front and in the back.
And in the back.
Of course, the big story is the GameStop thing. So if you've been under a rock, there were some people, and did it start out as activism or was people just trying to get money? I don't really know the origins.
I think it was people literally just trying to get money because they noticed that people were trying to short it. And then they were like, no, buy it and then just hold it.
These are the most shorted stocks. So
yeah.
These are stocks that people think probably really nothing going on here. It's safe to short because really, what is GameStop's future?
All the consoles are digital. It's not a good situation.
Is digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really no reason to go. And especially with the current,
there's
disease situation.
Picard over there, that was originally a ThinkGeek commission. The face-palming Picard.
What's that got to do with GameStop?
They own it.
Oh.
I thought ThinkGeek went out of business.
No, ThinkGeek is owned by GameStop.
Oh.
Doesn't make me any more likely to visit a GameStop, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But anyway, they chose some of the most shorted stocks. They saw how much short exposure there was. Now, the Melvin Capital, the hedge fund that got blown up by this, they were unique because they over-reported. And it was public knowledge how much short they had on GameStop.
Yeah.
They weren't even one of the worst hedge funds in terms of destroying capitalism. But they were open about it, a little too open, and some Reddit users got onto that. And I'm not adding it. This is a huge line of stories. So fast forward after insanity takes hold of Reddit and everybody else, and they start just buying these ridiculously crappy stocks.
GameStop goes from $6 to over $100.
Oh, 350.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
that-
lingering around 300 as of this
I
recording.
think it might have spiked above 4.
420, yeah.
I did, yeah, this morning.
But when we knew something insane was happening was when GameStop stock went from like 6 to 100, and it was for a while it was less than $1, which you get delisted for that.
So what happens is that you get what's called a short squeeze. Now, when you short a stock, you borrow it and you sell it to buy it back at a future date and give it back to whoever you borrowed it from. And when it starts to skyrocket through the roof, sometimes you don't have any choice but to sell it so that you have to have some liquidity so you can get stopped out. That buying feeds into the loop, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Yeah. And so eventually the big brokers freaked out, and
Robinhood blocks purchases of GameStop, AMC, and others after days of Reddit-fueled rallies.
Followed shortly by
GameStop and AMC trading restricted by TD Ameritrade, Schwab, Robinhood, and others. Now, it looks like, if you look at the numbers here, it looks like, when you were talking about it's like you have to buy it at a future date, it looked like those hedge funds were the ones that were actually driving the price so insanely high because you literally couldn't buy it. And so when Robinhood and stuff put a stop to being able to buy it, the people that had bought it on margin, which this is in the Robinhood terms of service, Robinhood automatically sold it, I guess. You could only buy it if you actually had the capital in your account to cover it. And the reason that Robinhood did that was because it would free up more in the market for these things to be able to buy it.
Also because one of their major revenue sources, the hedge funds,
40%,
stopped sending the money because they were going out of business at a rapid rate.
It doesn't seem like Melvin Capital is going to recover.
The other thing is, I haven't checked it today, but when you can't borrow a stock for free. So if you short a stock, you have to borrow it, but that's not free. You pay usually a fairly small amount. So let's say, blue chip like Coca-Cola, 0.25% per annum to borrow to short. That's not that big a deal, right? As of, I guess, Wednesday, GameStop, 32% per year to borrow.
To short.
So who can, it's almost impossible at that point.
I watched some of the coverage of this, and I really like the people, the hedge fund managers and the people that they had on TV couldn't have been more transparent with their motivations. They were like, we had to stop trading to stop the losses. And it's like, to stop whose losses? Because the retail traders are making a lot of money here. The hedge funds are losing money. So if you're saying that you had to stop trading to stop the hedge funds from losing money, that's anti-competitive, and they're going to be in trouble for that.
There was another guy who went on the television and was talking, and he was like, "This is just an attack on the wealthy," and I was like, "Wow, that is dramatically transparent."
But there's a rich history of hedge funds doing exactly this kind of thing to one another.
Yes.
And I'll point out, if you want to do a little reading about this, the Herbalife. Do you say Herbalife or Herbalife?
I always say Herbalife.
I think it's
Herbalife, right? I used to get made fun of for saying herb, so it's herb.
Herbalife was basically a pyramid scheme. It's multi-level marketing, but they're publicly traded. And so Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn, I don't know how it's pronounced.
The guy that messed up HP.
They had a giant war with Herbalife as the proxy, and $1 billion changed hands during all that. And there was massive short squeezes, and there was all sorts of mudslinging and accusations of fraud. It was way nastier than this, but it was two established players. So everybody was like, "Oh, get the popcorn." And then, the retail traders do it, and it blows up.
Now, remind me what there's a big investigation too, a big federal investigation. Remind me what the results of that investigation was with the Herbalife thing.
Not a pyramid scheme. 2016, the federal government confirmed Herbalife is not a pyramid scheme. So the bull won. It cost the other guy $1 billion. If you woke up Thursday morning you were just filled with excitement. It was 9:25 and you were sitting there and you're white knuckled sitting at your desk. You can't wait to start buying again. You found out something very disturbing.
Robinhood hit with a class action after blocking GameStop trades. Robinhood purposefully, willfully, and knowingly removed the stock GME from its trading platform in the midst of an unprecedented stock, thereby deprived retail investors. So not just buying on margin. Like I can kind of understand buying on margin, but even if you had the capital in your account to cover buying it outright, you could not.
Yep. And you could close positions, but you couldn't open positions. Now, which way does that affect the stock price?
Oh no.
So if you were a fairly new retail trader and you just caught up in the frenzy of all this, and the exuberance carried you through the week, but then you got to Thursday and you're like, oh, it's going down. I'm losing money.
Somebody's wrecking my stuff.
But I could sell. And so then that creates a kind of a feedback loop.
Yep.
They turned it back on Friday.
Those sales are what had to fuel, like the hedge funds, that's what they had to buy. 'Cause there weren't any stocks to borrow. Like there was literally no stocks available to borrow until they did this.
They're dark pooling that stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want anything on the of course it'll still be hard to get. And so now here we are on Friday, we're filming this on Friday, and it's kind of just floating around. There is one amazing thing about, and it doesn't just affect the stock market, it affects everything, like sports, for example. I don't know if we're not big sports people, but I've watched enough sports to know, like, if there's a minute left in the game, just keep calling timeouts if the other team's ahead, because you can destroy that momentum. And Thursday absolutely destroyed the momentum in this movement. We'll see where it goes from here.
I also think there's a little bit of a meta game going on here, that the people that got in early on the Reddit and social media side, I think a lot of them have used this to manipulate the situation. And so like there's almost like two factions on the retail investor side, like the people at the beginning and the people that are in now, which maybe have less noble intentions.
So are you saying that a group of people pumped the price with the intention of then dumping the price?
Yeah.
Someone should have thought about that before. And it wasn't just the the financial world that sort of rallied together to try to destroy these terrorists. Other tech companies helped.
Discord bans the /r Wall Street Bet server, but new ones have sprung to life. Now, Discord said this was for terms of service violations, threats of violence and all this other kind of stuff. Briefly, Wall Street Bets was also shut down on Reddit, but that was so the moderators could get everything under control so they wouldn't get banned. So,
it's also important to cover it quickly. And you need to read about this. There's so much more to it, but Robinhood makes a lot of their money. It's kind of like social media. You're not the customer. You're the product, or at least your trades are the product. They sell your trading data to, guess who?
The hedge funds.
The hedge funds. One of their biggest customers was Citadel, the hedge fund. Citadel got crushed by this. They had a huge GameStop short. And a lot of people are like, dude, there's too much coincidence here. This is 40% of your income, and you protected it. And they're like, no. This was about our customers. Although they did draw down nearly, I think, $1 billion worth of credit. So it might have just been they were in financial trouble.
Yeah.
Which should worry you if all of your gains from all this are in Robinhood, who might have a liquidity problem and might not be making a lot of money from the hedge funds going forward.
Either way, I'm just enjoying watching them all scramble.
Well, maybe this is finally going to lead to some much-needed high-frequency trading regulation.
Oh, sure, yeah. And what can you do? You were powerless. You wake up and your broker has turned off the stocks that you want. You're helpless.
You're not allowed to buy this thing that you want to buy. That doesn't sound very capitalistic.
In a free market. Free. But
yeah.
some people...
Oh, the Boiler Snake is super pissed.
Snake got in early.
Yeah.
He was super upset on Thursday. But what could you do? They were trying to lash out any way that they could, but you know what? When the big tech titans are in charge, that also not allowed.
Google has salvaged Robinhood's 1-star rating by deleting nearly 100,000 negative reviews. A lot of Robinhood users were upset. They 1-star bombed it, and Google's like, no, that's not okay. And it's like, is it though? Again, free market.
Is warning other users that this financial company won't let you buy and sell the stocks that you want not a legitimate review?
That is very much like, I can see why sometimes, they have to be cautious with that kind of thing, where it's like, sometimes people just 1-star bomb it for no reason, but like, that's very legit. There was a problem with the service. It wasn't anything else. It should be 1-star bombed.
We are on fire.
Also, it was crashing constantly during all of this.
Yeah, you were bitching about that right before we started.
That website's made of paper mache. So there's other reasons to give it a 1-star review. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week. A lot of people are saying this is a new kind of activism. I think some people actually reoccupied Wall Street.
Really?
Not a lot. So. Yeah, not a lot of them, but it's kind of like it's revising that whole.
I did notice that on social media that a lot of people had posted pictures. Remember from like the last Occupy Wall Street how there was all the protesters, and then there were like the wealthy people up on the balconies that had like the champagne.
Pouring
and stuff.
their champagne out on them. Yeah.
Oh, the 4chan meme. The Pepe memes about this are so good. So amazing.
It's a good time to be in the meme market.
The meme economy.
Who knows what it'll be like next week? Like by the time this comes out on, I guess it'll be Wednesday next week, the whole situation could have changed dramatically again. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I don't know if they've got it in them to do another big push. It seems to be waning, although it's not crashing, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, is there any chance any of these companies maintain this value?
No. Not over the long term.
I mean, GameStop is garbage. It's a garbage company.
I bet there's a manager somewhere that got like, 0.5% of stock as like stock options.
So if you go, just Google insider trading and the ticker, you can look at their insider trading. Somebody sold 90,000 shares on the 15th.
Oh no!
One of the insiders.
Oh no! I'm so sorry, random person. I'm so sorry.
It's a tough day. That's a tough day. Several $1 million left on the table there. Whew. Well, moving on to less exciting news, and this product is very unexciting. But it's important to point out because about a year ago, Intel stepped up and said, we're getting into discrete graphics. The freshman effort, not a blockbuster. But hey, they did it.
Intel Iris Xe graphics cards now shipping to OEMs. DG1 lands in desktops. It's 25 watts. On paper, it looks a little better than the built-in Xe graphics in 11th gen CPUs. And it's probably quite a bit better because it's on a PCI card as opposed to being built into the CPU. I'm trying to get my hands on one. I'm trying to figure out if it'll support things like GVTG, which is like Intel's version of SR-IOV. So maybe we could have VMs that share a graphics card with this. I really want to test that or build the software to do that.
It's fanless. It could be good for like home media or something.
Well, 25 watts. I mean.
And I think this is the product. I've never been super good at first-person shooters, but age has definitely taken what little I had. But I think this is the product that's going to bring me back, just like I was in my 20s.
Razer's new Viper 8K promises the fastest performance of any gaming mouse. It's 8,000 hertz, 8 kilohertz polling rate. That's the 8K. It's not pixels. It's polling rate. So
8,000 times per second it will report back to the computer.
I really want to see how they actually do this because technically USB's data rate is supposed to be 1 kilohertz.
Well, the tester at The Verge claimed that they tested this with software, and they were only able to get to 4,500. But they weren't sure that they were capable of moving their arm fast enough to like actually max out the mouse.
Interesting.
I thought you were going to say the guy at The Verge played it and then went from plat to grandmaster in a weekend. That's how incredible this mouse is.
I didn't
completely change the game.
What do you think is more taxing for mouse polling rate? A game like StarCraft 2 or a game like Counter-Strike?
Probably Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I would think so.
Precision, certainly.
Yeah.
More important there. And if you're looking for a new gaming PC, but you want the most expensive gaming PC money can buy, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's that Mac, that $50,000 Mac. But no, there's a new one.
Tesla's new cars can run The Witcher 3 on their 10 teraflop gaming rigs. Well, not really. It's not exactly 10 teraflops, but this is, again, Elon Musk has a single tweet that's turned into a story.
Wow.
They did show it running Twitcher 3 on the promotional video. We don't know exactly what hardware is in there, though. I assume it's got to be some kind of discrete graphics, right? Do we have anything integrated that can run Witcher 3 at this point?
No, not really. Well, I mean, Intel would say the XE graphics, but there's reasonable graphics processing in, a Tesla, obviously. But yeah.
But the screen isn't big.
No.
And what is it, 17 inches? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
And I guess the seating is comfortable, but I just can't see gaming in my car.
Just why? Well, and then he mentions, too, you can already watch the show on Tesla and Netflix Theater. And it's like, why would I watch a TV show in my car?
Let's just do a whole Witcher weekend in the garage. So exciting.
Like
You
Tesla,
should really get into, the van life stuff, right?
Tesla glamping.
Luxury vans.
I guess an electric van would make van life super easy, right? Because your battery system is one of the biggest things.
Yeah. Why hasn't he done that? It seems like that would be a great intersection. Millennials love living in vans.
Because it's too expensive, right?
Cybertruck upgrade.
Yeah.
He could go all, what was the, I can't remember the book about the guy that was driving around with the truck that had the camper on the back. Oh, it's a famous one. I can't remember.
One of my favorite things to watch on YouTube now is super high-end RV reviews.
I watched a few after you sent me that one where the guy was like, let me show you all the storage, and he opens the thing up and he's like, here's the septic recycling system, and I'm sorry, it's like, what?
And some of them, some of the really, really nice, the Class C ones, have cars in them.
Like it just pops out from the
Got a little
bottom.
ramp in the back, yeah.
Wow.
It's it seems like if you have that much money, where are you RVing to? Why would you just fly to your home that's out there? This when we think about this headline, I want you to, before you think about this headline, I want you to think back. Was it 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago, yeah.
When we found out that GM had partnered with a company that was 100% fraudulent to make an electric car. And I was like, wow, GM, you really didn't do your homework there, did you? And then we see this.
Navistar, GM, and 1H2 combined forces for long-haul hydrogen and electric trucks. I saw this and I was like, what is GM thinking? Since the Nikola partnership evaporated, they'd announced other partnerships as well, and it's like this is new. So GM really seems to be taking the shotgun approach to partnering with anybody that might do electric. But they have the impression of, a senile old man that's just like, yeah, that sounds good. I've got a lot of money. Let's just do that. They're just hoping one of these pays off.
Now, this is not the same kind of electric as Tesla. These are hydrogen fuel. Oh, I thought they had a picture of the...
Yeah, but the hydrogen fuel it's not an electric exactly. It's still combustion, but it's hydrogen.
Look, there should be an image here. Here's broken. A peek at GM's... Why? Why, CNET?
Why is it broken?
There it is.
Yeah.
So that's your hydrogen cell, and that's going to provide your power for these trucks. And they're looking to have the whole ecosystem of refueling that and delivering them and keeping the whole thing running.
X'd out.
We'll see. Now, Krista, I was trying to find a story about this that had better images. It seems like it was only the video. Did you watch the video?
There's some images in this, but they're very small. No, I did not watch the video.
I watched the video.
It does look it looks a lot like, remember when Disney did the Land of the Future? Mm-hmm. And it was like kind of futuristic.
So do you remember the story that we did on the regulation that Elon Musk ran into, like the regulation problems?
The fire codes and stuff?
Yeah, he did a nice web page that had diagrams and pictures and mock-ups and stuff of like all the stuff that he had to do, and he's like, this is the code. This is what we have to comply with in order to do that. That was all I saw when I was watching this. And there's part of it when the little Hyperloop tubes get to the end of the station and it like goes underground under a beach. None of that will comply with any of that code. Literally none of it.
But look how clean and white.
Look how cool it is, though.
It was super clean. But all those people are going to die if it stops for some reason.
But they're going to be enjoying their surroundings so much as they die.
I do notice that, so I found the video and I'm now scrolling through it, that the tops of these little compartments all have like glass. So you have like a skylight, but you're in a tube. So
that is a solar cell, Krista.
Well, that's...
Oh, it looks like glass.
What we're talking about.
What?
No one knows what we're talking about yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they can't see. Oh,
Virgin Hyperloop unveils passenger experience vision, but somebody that has an idea of what the building codes are was not involved in planning this. True to typical ad agency planning fashion, nobody actually figured out what sort of real physical requirements this thing is going to have.
Also, the Hyperloop pod. I thought we weren't doing pods. I thought we were doing.
No, this is Virgin Hyperloop. So the Musk
Oh, I totally.
the
missed
Musk
that.
Boring Company loop is not large enough to do that kind of loop, and in order to do larger boreholes, they would have to have different tooling, which is more complicated. This video, it's really amazing. It looks awesome, but the problem is that there is no way that this is even remotely compliant with the safety protocols that Tesla already ran into.
are you sure that's not a skylight in the passenger cabin? Because it looks like.
Well, there's no
when-
sky.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm confused by it. But when it moves, it changes color.
Maybe it is transparent there, but in the close-ups in the video, it's definitely solar cells on a lot of the track.
Huh.
Have you ever
No,
seen
on the
those
inside?
Outside.
the bunkers?
No, it's on the inside that has this like ceiling thing.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry, what?
Chris, it's an underground tube.
I know. That's why I think it's weird, but it looks like on the
Well,
inside.
It's not underground the entire time, but yeah.
The
Yeah.
bunkers do an amazing job with LEDs to simulate
Simulate
windows
sunlight.
and stuff like that. Yeah, and some of them even have
That might be what that ceiling thing is then.
they even have like moving patterns of tree branches casting shadows.
Oh yeah, some of the airports have that.
Yeah, so they can do really impressive stuff with simulating windows and stuff like that. Yeah, in my mind, totally made this Boring Company, but this is Virgin. I'm thinking, this is a really nice looking place, but like these curved columns over here. How do you think those will be when they're covered with the urine and feces of the homeless?
That's the genius here. Those are shaped from preformed concrete. We just come in with a pressure washer and just
Also, there's like no ads in this space, so that's not realistic
Oh, that's a
either.
good point. Yeah, that's going to be covered with digital displays.
yeah.
Ugh.
Again, this is an agency was tasked with imagine the thing of the future, and they're like, all right, but they didn't actually look at what the building requirements are at all.
Now, when it comes to the most shorted names on the stock market, we've heard a lot about those. And one big question in my mind is, why was this company not in that list? Because they really belong there.
AT&T is eating a $15.5 billion impairment charge as DirecTV debacle continues. Man, we really called it. When AT&T was buying DirecTV, we gave them hell, and we were right.
And they're not just getting killed in the TV business. They're also getting killed in the internet provider. This is a dead company walking.
They really have no clue.
Yeah, you know what?
I like the little headline up here. It says it keeps getting worse.
It's going to continue to keep getting worse.
Yeah.
We're going to see where rock bottom is exactly, and we're all going to be surprised at where rock bottom is, because Lord knows they're not doing any maintenance on their copper telephone network, and there's not enough fiber here, so they're just going to stop working one day.
Over 500,000 subscribers in that last quarter they lost.
You think it'll be like a millennial where they just ghost, like one day they just like,
They're just gone.
yeah, their phone lines just don't work anymore, and it's like, well, my phone line's still working, but they're just not responding.
No, I think they'll sell it off. Cut it up into pieces.
Yeah.
Might be a good chance to get some office furniture
Ooh.
for the offices that nobody uses. Well, we talked about the European Union and the big tech companies and them just kind of getting in line. Like Apple, for example. They're like, oh, Apple lied about the battery. All right, everybody queue up, and we're going to extract money from Apple. And Apple deserves it. They did a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know who else did a bad thing? And it's going to
Nintendo.
get the exact same treatment.
Nintendo was sued by European gamers because of the Joy-Con joystick things. This mechanism is cheap and crappy, and Nintendo knows it, and they won't fix it properly. So I hope they get their butt handed to them.
I think a replacement pair of those is really expensive.
Yeah,
Compared to the cost of the unit.
that's because Nintendo is crazy about market controls.
They mentioned in their testing 88%. I think it was 88%. It was over 80% of those Joy-Cons failed. Oh, we got the paywall.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that they have failed, that they will experience the issue sometime within a 3-year period
but
of normal
drift.
use. Yeah.
Is drift not failure for
Well,
a
yeah.
controller?
Yeah.
It makes like if that's the stick that controls the camera in a third-person game,
Oh, yeah.
that's broken.
Yeah.
There's no coming out of that. Google and Apple have been having their little spat, and Google has still not updated the apps, right?
You know, they were supposed to update it last week. I don't think they did.
I don't think so. No,
No, I don't
because
think so either.
well, this was on the 27th when he made these statements. So Google finally has ended their silence about this, and this is political.
Yeah.
Didn't really say much, but if you read between the lines.
Google spells out consequences of Apple's privacy push and the IDFA changes. Now, they did say that Google has made sweeping changes to their app in a couple of ways to avoid some of the prompts.
But I don't think it's genuinely trying to not track. I think it's just moving the shells around.
Yeah. And I think this leads into the story that we'll have later about the black box tracking. Because Google's trying to figure out a way to do the same kind of tracking using artificial intelligence and like cohort tracking, where they're not tracking you as an individual, they're tracking you in a group of other people that are like you. And so when most of you do something, then they have that behavior and they can sell ad space that way, which is maybe a little better.
But isn't that just another line on the nutrition facts thing?
It sounds like the same sort of thing with more steps.
Yeah, they're rephrasing the question, and I don't think Apple is going to fall for that. I think they're going to just add more information, say, oh, they're doing this now. And speaking of office furniture, we talked about when AT&T goes, when a big company goes out of business, it's time to buy their furniture and their equipment and stuff. And but perhaps, well, I guess actually it could be a good time to do that, since maybe the competition won't be there bidding for those same things.
Just 1 in 10 companies expect all employees to return to the office. When you spend more of your waking hours with your colleagues than you do with your family, a lot of people are ready to go back to the office once it's safe.
Definitely seems like we're entering into a new normal in terms of all that. Sitting at home, doing your job, selling stocks.
I definitely think that something like a 4-day work week could work because, I mean, it depends on what you do, but you know, it's like, yeah, you'll earn a little bit less money with a 4-day work week, but you'll probably have a much better quality of life.
But that's going to create, and I don't know if this is a terrible thing, but that's going to create a huge dividing line in the country where you're going to have people who can have 4-day jobs and people who work like fast food and retail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a real divide. But it's like, oh, hey, Friday we're going to go down to the museum. And they're like, oh.
I've got a shift. I can't. It's kind of already like that with Amazon and stuff.
It is like that because I have some friends who work those kind of jobs, and like it is hard to find a weekend where like all of us have time off at the same time.
Well, Kristen, maybe you should find better friends.
I like my friends.
No. It's not like the whole like classism thing. It's like, oh no, we can't hang out with her. She can never work or hang out with us on Saturdays because she's a filthy pleb.
The caste system. Yeah. We need a caste system. But, I mean, look, the two of us, you can't accuse us of that because we hang out with Krista and she rents.
Yeah, I do currently rent. Hopefully not much longer. By the time you guys are watching this, my home inspection will have come back and then I'll know. The second home inspection.
You shouldn't say that, Krista. You're setting it up.
I know. I'm really excited. I shouldn't be excited, but I am.
Well, Krista,
I'm going to have a great new home office.
Even if you don't have a new home or a new home office, you could still take a really nice vacation for about the same amount that you're paying for that house.
Axiom names first private crew paying $55 million for a trip to the ISS. It's a $55 million for an orbital vacation. Now
that's the first round, but they are hoping to get it down to, what was it, 35 grand? I think, yeah, 35 grand per night. Eventually, they hope, will be the price for one night on the space station and the trip back and forth.
That just
seems low.
It's just a down payment on a house. That's fine.
I mean, it seems low, but at the same time, I can think of so many other things that 35 grand would be, and it's like not even stuff for me. It's like, you know, there's a lot of suffering on planet Earth that could be alleviated by $55 million.
There's a lot of suffering on planet Earth that you could leave behind and go visit space.
You could buy like 1,000 shares of GameStop for that.
Or like 2 Bitcoins.
No, not just one. So yeah, if you want to go into space, I guess start saving up. You think there's a meal on that flight?
Yeah.
Is it if it's not astronaut ice cream, I'm not interested.
That stuff's nasty.
It is kind of weird. But I always ate it every time I went to a museum.
Yeah, it was really chalky, but then after it was in your mouth for a little while, it was like, oh, that's just ice cream.
It does taste like ice cream,
But
yeah.
there was no reason to go through that first part.
Yeah.
Just get some ice cream.
It only becomes ice cream when it literally sucks the moisture from your body, which is not a great thing.
Well, if you remember the old I'm a Mac and I'm a PC commercial, well, Microsoft hasn't forgotten it. They've been bitter about it ever since. And they do things like this.
Microsoft mocks Apple's doomed touch bar and new Surface ad. Of course, all Apple has to do is respond with their 5-watt processor. Their 5-watt processors mocking the molten slag from Intel that's in the Surface.
So the joke here is this kid is like, oh, they gave me this little tiny touch thing, but this one over here has a whole touch screen. So they're trying to, put down the Mac because it doesn't have a touch screen.
Well, you can't touch the screen on a Mac because your filthy, greasy fingerprints.
Either way, my internet is too terrible at my house to do my online schoolwork. And then he just smiles at the camera and is like, help me.
That's because AT&T is busy worrying about hemorrhaging its losses from the DirecTV thing instead of upgrading their infrastructure.
So yeah, if you want a touchscreen, don't go Mac. Yeah, it's interesting that all the games that I remember playing in high school on emulators are now selling for big money. It's like we've forgotten that that's a thing that's free. But this new service is one that goes even further back than any of them have before.
Plex Arcade is a retro video game streaming service, but that excludes Linux users. So you can play really old arcade games, kinda, sorta.
Just Atari right now. And just the 2600 era stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really one of the first generations of gaming. I remember this ninja game. I can't remember what the name of it was. These games were so brutal. Also, the new gamepad. I don't know. Wouldn't you rather have the paddle?
The paddle would probably make more sense, but...
No, it definitely doesn't as a controller, but we're going for nostalgia here, right?
Yeah, if you want to go for max nostalgia and really get people to buy it. Because then you could have that paddle out, on your coffee table and people could ask about it. It's like having a nice coffee table book.
The first time I ever experienced Atari, one of the paddles was broken. It was always like going to the left or something, and I thought that was part of the gameplay mechanic.
Oh, it's like Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's not a new problem. In the ensuing 50 years, they haven't figured that out. Well, the whole Apple, this is their lawsuit with, is it Facebook or Epic? Oh yeah, Apple and Epic. How could I forget that? Apple and Epic are having their big lawsuit. With the lawsuit, you get discovery, which means that you can go and say something like, hey, I want to see all the internal emails about your pricing policy for the App Store. And they have to give you those. There's some interesting stuff in that.
Apple execs discussed, quote, not leaving money on the table when setting Apple TV subscription fees. 40% is probably a little too much. 30% was just about right. But was it 30% of the initial cost or 30% of the ongoing? Oh, well, 30% ongoing fees, obviously.
So it could have easily been just 30%. They could have left it at that. But these emails, you can follow along as they were like, I think the market could bear ongoing 30%. I think that's what we should do. And they basically did.
I think ultimately these emails are going to force Apple to open up and allow third-party app stores. I think the most logical conclusion of all this is that Apple gets to do things exactly however they want with their own app store, but Epic will be permitted to have an app store of their own. Google probably also as well.
Kind of like streaming services?
Yeah, kind of like streaming services.
And then we'll all end up paying more.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
And Apple, during all this, may be trying to squeeze a little extra money out of the consumer. Because if you track the average price of everything they have on offer in terms of iPhones, never been higher.
Average U.S. iPhone price hits a record $873. Who is spending upwards of 2% of their income on a phone. Well, that's basically an annual purchase, right?
Who's
Is that an annual? Who buys a phone every year?
No.
who has 2% of their income being $800?
Everybody that's well, like I figured you buy a phone every 2 years, and so like you make less than $50K a year. That's a significant part of your income.
You think it's every 2 years though? I think a lot of people buy them every year.
I like run mine into the ground until like the battery starts to blow up.
I don't know how long I kept my last one, but I went through more than one cycle of the telecom being willing to do an upgrade.
I replaced the battery in that iPhone 6. It runs like a champ. And a Galaxy S9. So like for our wall of phones, I've got a Galaxy S9 with a brand new battery, and it runs like a brand new phone. It's incredible. I think Samsung slows them down like Apple does.
Oh, almost certainly.
Well, Apple, they're definitely having a problem with Google, or Google's having a problem with Apple. I guess it depends on which way you look at it. And I think Google and Facebook are sort of at a precipice. They must decide, do we stick with what we've been doing and do we fight this out, or do we try to change things? And then the question becomes, how do you do that?
Google says that it may have found a privacy-friendly substitute to cookies. It's using machine learning and in-dimensional analysis to put you in a group of people that have similar interests as yours. And supposedly this is all done client side, and then they just say, "Oh yeah, we've got another number 37 here. Can I get some ads that are suitable for a profile type number 37?" When in fact that number is probably in the tens of thousands, if not millions. It's how many other people are in your group? 2? 100?
But when we're thinking about client-side AI stuff, now we're getting into, well, first of all, if this is on mobile, the battery.
Yeah.
That's costing you battery life.
Well, it's not going to cost you fat battery on the iPhone because it's got the neural engine that Android doesn't have.
It's definitely still going to cost you battery. You can't do that without using electricity. That's what comes out of the battery. But at the same time, also bandwidth and let's say that you were letting Google do their black box, and at the same time, on another machine, you were mining Monero. Monero's going to use more, but Google is still using resources that could go to something else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's possible, I guess.
And they're doing it for something that benefits you not at all.
No. Well, Google would say that the benefit to you is that the internet remains free and open and ads supported.
Oh, and you see ads that are important to you. Yeah.
No ads are important to me.
That's untrue.
Krista, that's going to be clipped using YouTube's new clipping feature.
Oh, did they steal that from Twitch? I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's on select channels now.
How does it publish the clip?
You just, select a part of it, just let it do it, and it does it.
But, what
just
does that get posted as another video?
I don't know.
There's probably going to be a tab on channels that have it, and it's like user submitted clips. Just like
you know
Twitch
what? I didn't even put in here because the cycle was, and I think it's been hidden pretty hard in the mainstream media, but was the poll thing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that last week. It was right after.
We did one of those. It helps.
We did also,
But it's gone now. Did you delete it?
No.
I think they just...
They buried it.
Yeah, they just got rid of it.
may have
Because I'm
just
still
purged
seeing a
all
lot of that stuff, but ours is gone.
Well, it really helped our numbers the one day. And also, I hooked it in with the old Barbie Dreamhouse stuff we were doing, and the algorithm is like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, back to Google. So Google, definitely the horizon for Google does not look very bright because their whole business model is suddenly threatened by people getting more privacy oriented.
And
yeah, that's not the only major threat that they're going to face in the coming year. This one might be worse.
Google workers to form Global Union Alliance. This is Reuters. The really amazing thing here is that the people that are actual employees of Google are trying to be bros and bring up the people that are working for the global Google contractor that doesn't have the same benefit structure. Like they're dangling a little bit of a carrot there for those people that don't actually work for Google, but they kind of work for Google. And the people that work at Google are basically saying, yeah, I'd be willing to take less benefits if we all had the same benefits or a similar structure. And Google management is like, no.
Panic.
Now, here's my question about this. How big is the team at Apple that is working right now around the clock to get this to be a medical expense. Because imagine how much money that's going to be.
The Apple Watch Series 7 will reportedly feature blood glucose monitoring via an optical sensor, according to the E-Times. So this is Watch Series 7. So it's gonna monitor your blood oxygenation. It currently does that, I think.
Yeah.
And your heart rate and some other things. Supposedly, they've got so much data, they can tell when you're infected with something even before you show symptoms because they can read the physiological response.
That was the pandemic thing.
Yep.
And the amazing thing about this is it is non-invasive. There doesn't have to be any blood contact or any sort of implant or anything like that. It's just the skin. Somehow they've figured out.
How does that work, though? I've never heard of a blood sugar test that didn't require a drop of blood.
Yeah, no one has. So I think people will flock to it. I mean, there's a lot of diabetic people in the U.S. for sure.
Yeah.
And if your insurance would pay for a smartwatch,
Yeah. It's almost every week now that I read a story about somebody that had an Apple Watch and like something just horrific happened to them, and if it weren't for their Apple smartwatch, they would have died.
calls the paramedics or whatever.
Yeah, like somebody's like, I'm walking along the road and they get hit by a car and it throws them off the side of the road like into a ditch, such that like oncoming cars won't see you, and like the Apple Watch is like, I'm just gonna go ahead and call for help, and those people would have just turned up dead otherwise.
What if you're just, you're lying broken in a ditch and you're too far gone and you're like, Siri, let me die.
Siri, I've got a DNR. What are you doing?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Would you like to listen to some music? And you're like, no, we're doing music.
I'd like to listen to some music while we wait for your ambulance to arrive.
Well, companies, I think, although Microsoft, I think they did fine last year, but it definitely seems like with the hiring and firing, or mostly just firing, and selling real estate and stuff like that, everybody who put everything on hold for 2020 is now rushing forward with their new plans to try and make money somehow. And this one was especially tone deaf.
Microsoft was trying to pull something with its Insta-Killed Xbox Live Gold price hike. So Microsoft announced, we're gonna raise the price on Xbox Live Gold. We got some quarterly plans, and everybody was like, WTF are you doing? They're like, oh, our bad. 14 hours later.
Not just raise it, double it.
Yeah.
The annual cost went from 60 to 120. Now, a lot of people had the idea, they were like, oh, you know what? They were probably just seeing how the market would react to this. This was probably a trial balloon. And they weren't really planning to do this, but they printed new cards for in-store. So I think they were really wanting to do this.
They were really wanting to do this, yeah.
You think they were at all affected by the fear that's like, oh God, what if they start shorting our stock?
That would be amazing. You get a company. Oh man. Actually, you were joking about AT&T earlier, but like Wall Street bets turning on to the terrible awfulness that is AT&T, hoping to create a vacuum that small business can rush in to fill as an ISP. That could be the next Wall Street bets.
Oh, you just described Herbalife. Yeah, they do that. It's called activist investing when they do it. You know what they call it when the retail investor does it? Yeah, so
it's funny how that works.
That's disgusting. You guys remember Nya?
Yes.
Nya is a anime trading torrent type of thing, but you don't have to use it for piracy. I mean, you could with a couple of clicks. It's real easy, but you don't have to, and that's critical.
GitHub restores NYAA repository as it isn't clearly, quote-unquote, pre-configured to infringe. So GitHub took it down, and they reached out to the developers. The thing here, though, is the developers did not immediately respond. GitHub looked it over, and they said, wait a minute. Yeah.
Oh.
Bolusnik loves anime.
He does.
I was going to say, he's a big weeb.
And he steals a lot of it. I don't want to throw him out there like that, but he's proud of it.
So GitHub looked it over, and they restored the repository after determining that it's not pre-configured to infringe. It's just software.
Now, what about, was it Cody that sold the box?
Yes.
The set-top box? Wasn't it almost the same thing, and they went the other way on them?
No, it wasn't Kodi. It was, we thought Kodi was next. There was something other than Kodi that was pre-configured, and it was pre-configured with links to places where you could pirate content, and it lost.
I think the OEM was not pre-configured. People were getting it, configuring it, and reselling it.
I don't know. Chad will have to remind us on that, because I thought that anytime you made it easy to find pirated material, that you lost. But if it was just a media box, you won.
And then there were those people with those Fire Sticks
Yeah.
who, like, Fire Stick's fine, but they put software on it.
Yeah, they were in
Shut
trouble.
them down.
Yeah. But the flea market, like in the comments on that story, some of those were hilarious because they're like, oh yeah, no, straight up at the local flea market, it's like free HBO. And it's like, you haven't been able to advertise free HBO since like the 70s.
What if I gave you the device and then, unrelated to that purchase, a piece of paper with a bunch of URLs printed on it?
You just had a stack of poorly Xeroxed leaflets. They've already got warning flags for people with poorly Xeroxed leaflets.
Yeah,
So
I think they'd probably go ahead and shut that down. So. Well, the good news for those of you who are looking for employment in the Texas area, possibly. Oh, no, wait. Arizona. No, this is
Texas.
TSMC is in Arizona.
yeah.
So these guys want to go to Texas.
Samsung is said to be considering a $10 billion expansion of their fab. Now, I think this is pretty likely to happen. One, because the pressure on all the fabs everywhere, not just Samsung, TSMC too, and Intel, and literally, we are making silicon microchips faster than we ever have. Between emerging markets and the fact that all of our global manufacturing infrastructure has basically collapsed due to the global situation, we need more advanced semiconductors more than ever. So I think this is probably going to happen.
Now, I don't know. This is our last story, and this is definitely my favorite story of the week. I don't know how this works exactly. I don't know if these have to be unique to the individual. If they don't, if this is kind of like a universal thing, and you live in Taiwan and you can get these, I want a pair.
And do I?
And you need to contact us, and we will get you. Not only will we pay for these, but we'll send you some cool swag. Because it seems too good to be true.
In before we're trolled and we have permanent eye damage.
It's just a couple. They send us just a couple of laser pointers, man. Cheap sunglasses.
That's like, be sure to stare into these from now on. Yeah.
Now, do you think this is powered somehow?
It looks like it is because I can see terminals
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
they're
on
pretty
it.
bulky. Yeah.
I don't understand anything about this.
Myopia correcting smart glasses from Japan to be sold in Asia. So basically, if you're nearsighted, which I am and you are too, I think.
All of us are.
Yeah, you can. This will correct it somehow.
And I don't know how, but they say after 60 to 90 minutes
A day for a period of time.
But I think it's not like after that 60 to 90 minutes, you've got a cool down time where you're fine. And then over time, they're saying it will permanently reverse the nearsightedness.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense. I wonder too, what is the limit? How nearsighted can you be? Because I'm a -7, so I'm severely nearsighted. Would this work for me, or is this only for people who are like little bitches at like -2, -3?
Krista, those are the kinds of questions that Nikkei Asia just did not answer.
They did not answer in this article. Yeah.
But
I want to know.
Here's some crazy statistics. Do you guys know this? 96% of South Koreans have nearsightedness.
I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It was really, really high.
What kind of, let's see, when was this published? This came out on the 23rd. On the 24th, how many people had to attend the mandatory meeting at Luxottica?
The entire company. Oh man, I think I found the new Wall Street bets thing.
But do we short them or do we go long? You don't know in this market.
It's just gambling.
Wow, that would be a crazy thing, though, to be able to get that. And then, you know what's going to be weird about that? Like, let's say that works exactly how they say it is. What happens with the driver's licenses?
Oh, well, you probably just get retested. Like, you just go in. If you had an optometrist that was like, yeah, they don't need glasses anymore, that's all you need.
So now we just need to
They
find
make a note on your license, though, so you'd have to have your license updated all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That would not be efficient. At least not here. I don't know how it works in other countries.
Well, no, if you got it permanently fixed, then you just need one letter from an optometrist. They don't recheck.
Are these permanent fixes, though?
Not its first. So you could do 60 minutes, and then presumably you could go out and go about your day. And then it would wear off eventually. So if you're driving during that cool down time, you're not permanently cured.
Yeah.
But if you were wearing your glasses, it would be a much worse situation, right?
Yeah.
I have to assume that correcting the reflection after it's already been corrected is going to be bad.
Yeah. It's that weird headache you get from a new pair of glasses.
The other day, I made a mistake, and I was like, my eyes are getting worse. Something bad is happening. I put my contacts in. It's like I couldn't see. I was like, it's still blurry. I put my husband's contacts in by accident. And I freaked out thinking I was going blind.
So yeah, I'm really excited about this. I hope this becomes a thing, but it seems too good to be true. So I don't know. Also, what about when you're cooling down from your 90 minutes and then you can't see with or without your glasses?
Oh, it's like the
Then
puff
you just
machine.
go take a nap. Yeah.
The puff machine?
Yeah, you know when you go to the optometrist and they do
Oh, they blast you in the
Oh,
air.
yeah.
yeah, and then you get the alien eyes for a little while.
Well, that's from the
Yeah, it dilates
the dilating
your,
drops.
pupils.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have. I mean, that's a byproduct of the puff. Anyway, I
Well,
want
we'll
them.
see you Friday with lots of nonsense, everybody.
Look how cool this guy is,
Wow, it's just wacky.
Yep.
Krista.
Right. Bye. Hello. Today is February 5th, and today we're doing social and nonsense.
Started out with social, and this is not about a social media company, but instead someone who is having a bit of a row with the social media companies. You think he's a little biased?
I think this is all just for the media. I think he's doing this for attention and no other reason.
Well, he's doing it to discredit his enemies, I think.
Yeah. Reuters has this amazing article. Apple's Tim Cook criticizes social media practices intensifying Facebook conflict. Basically, it's really, he's calling out Facebook, but he's really calling out products that you don't pay for, which is an interesting strategy. It's like, you're not paying for use of the internet and everything else. Therefore, X, Y, Z bad things.
Doesn't it feel a little disingenuous, though, because this is basically like saying Americans are spending too much time at shopping malls. It's destroying the country. They're wasting all their money. Shopping malls are terrible. And the person telling you that is the guy who built the road to the shopping mall.
Yeah.
Because the iPhone has opened up social media to the masses like no other device, right?
Right.
Weird.
You have to pay him, and he wants a cut.
He wants 30%.
That's his problem.
Yeah.
And the other side is not quiet during all of this. They're both firing shots over the bow.
Facebook is prepping an antitrust lawsuit against Apple. Now, so I had this is not a bad article, but the problem that I had with this is that it doesn't look at what's going on with the whole Apple versus Epic antitrust lawsuit, because Facebook is basically copy-pasting from Epic's playbook.
Now, they have not confirmed that they are going to file this lawsuit. They've just let it be known that they have some top lawyers working on it right now.
They have some ideas about that.
I think they have more than an idea. I think it's probably pretty much ready to put the stamp on and put in the mailbox.
Well, I mean, okay, like computers are involved, sure. But if we take computers out and phones out, if a company, like if you have a business transaction with one company and you want to make a business transaction with another company, and the first company gets wind of that and interferes with it, historically, that has been a Sherman antitrust violation. Like you can't, it's torturous interference. You can't, like that's anti-competitive, but even when it's not necessarily anti-competitive, it still runs afoul of like interstate commerce laws. And this seems like that, but with computers and online. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it shapes up.
And I'm sure it will take years to do so.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really understand it, but it just seems like that if we weren't talking about computers here, we were talking about paper contracts and paper deals, that this would be a different situation.
Now let's think back to 2019, the salad years, the times when we didn't have to worry so much about everything killing us.
Before the end times.
And during that time, we saw a lot of the big tech giants, especially Mr. Zuckerberg, go and speak in front of our lawmakers. And aside from pretty much confirming that he is definitely a robot, one thing we learned is that he would do anything to give a straight answer. The answer was almost always, Madam, I would enjoy getting you that information. Perhaps I could contact your office after the hearing. Maybe we could follow up. And they were like, no, answer the question. Well, I'm not really sure. I'd love to follow up. Never give them a real answer, because the real answer is damning. And it turns out that's not just when you're in front of a group of lawmakers. It's anytime you make a deal with anything to do with the government, hide as much as you can.
Facebook's secret settlement on Cambridge Analytica gags the UK data watchdog. The quote in here from them is hilarious. So, yeah, it's like it's part of an agreement that we struck with Facebook, she told the committee, in terms of our litigation against Facebook. So there is an agreement that's not in the public domain, and that's why I would prefer to discuss this in private. What?
Now, you might think, why did these stupid lawmakers not press her further on this? They did. And she would not give it up. She was like, I can't tell you. Privately, I'll go with you right now and tell you. But on this microphone, I'm not going to do it. What could it be?
It's probably something really horrifying. Like, you know, we figured out that this many MPs were lizard people from the Andromeda system or something just crazy like that.
What a crazy secret for that one woman to keep.
Yeah.
Facebook also, during the big Capitol riots and all that and the election, you know, they took
that
a lot
feels like 6 months ago already.
Yeah, we already had the next big event already. It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
now we're in the stock market. We're not worried about that. But during all of that, they made some pretty extreme decisions about stifling the speech of the sitting president at the time. That was unprecedented, and a lot of people said, "Hey, you don't have the right to do this," and they were like, "Well, maybe we do, maybe we don't. We'll decide."
Facebook is referring the Trump ban to his Supreme Court, which cannot be overruled by Zuckerberg or executives. So this is like the people that decide is he banned or not, and it's out of business, it's out of executive hands. Remember, this was the fix last year for dealing with some of the whole, like, I don't know, should we ban speech? Should we not ban speech? I don't know.
There's going to be a 90-day time for comments, for public comments, and then after that, they're going to decide, but then they have time after that to decide. So for the next 4 to 5 months, I think it just stays in place, right?
Do you think that the comments are going to be split 50-50, right? Like there's no,
it's going to be like the net neutrality. One side is going to send in bots, or maybe both of them. It depends on who's better at bots. And speaking of the Capitol riots, when that happened, a lot of people blamed social media. They're like, hey, these people are basically using your service to plan attacks on our government. And Facebook said, you know, we looked into this, and actually what we discovered is they were using every other social media platform, but not ours. They definitely didn't use ours. And it's been looked into a little bit more closely at this point.
NBC News has the article that some pro-Trump extremists use Facebook to plan the Capitol attack, according to this report. So this
Doesn't
is
surprise anybody, really.
Well, this is good and bad, though, because, like, wouldn't it be better that they were planning it on here than, say, Signal? Because this will leave a forensic trail, whereas Signal, not so much.
Yeah. So, this has their quotes, and they're basically just saying, like, no, it wasn't from us. It was from other social media sites. And then they point out, like, 5 different groups who they have smoking gun not only found them planning, but then had pictures of them at the riot. So, definitely. To answer your question, I would far, far, far prefer if I had to fight a group of insurgents, I would way rather fight the Facebook insurgents than the Signal insurgents.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working law enforcement and you got to figure out who the bad guys are, would you rather deal with the people that are using Signal or the people on Facebook? I mean,
I figured the people on Facebook, I could probably Jedi mind trick like 6 of them, you know, just turn them onto my side. Talking about a low class of people here.
Just use their profiles against them.
Yeah. Distract them with phishing links and stuff like that because you know they're going to fall for it.
Farmville. Is that still relevant in 2021?
Does it still exist? I don't know.
I don't know either.
You know what?
Probably.
Another thing I don't know about is TikTok. I'm still not hip to it.
You know, guys, while we're here, you know, before we head over to the Capitol, why don't we check out Udvarhazy? I've heard that it's really amazing.
I don't know what that is. What are you talking about?
It's a museum. It's an aerospace museum. It's really awesome.
Though it was cracking me up because I can't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about it's like after they attacked the Capitol, they apparently went to some of the other notable places.
I went to a Denny's,
and it was like, no, the other places in the Capitol.
Oh,
because just to see them. And I was like, what if they just wanted to tour the Capitol the whole time? And it was shut down because of the
That was all it
pandemic.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like our friends got a private tour yesterday. Why can't we get one today? What makes today different than yesterday?
It was never about, Trump. It was just they wanted to see their nation's capital.
I'm getting an
They
idea
need to
for
go
a
on
new.
their 8th grade field trip.
I'm getting an idea for a new Mr. Bean movie. Mr. Bean accidentally set up his tour of the Capitol for the same day, and it's just like
Keeps getting shot.
He gets swept up in all this madness and doesn't know what's going on.
But anyway, TikTok, it's popular with the kids, I guess. And it seems like a lot of people are trying to emulate that success. We're getting a real glut of TikTok clones.
2 of TikTok's competitors are merging, and I've forgotten what they are. They're so memorable.
I've never heard of any of these.
No, it's Clash and Byte, and I was like, who the hell is that?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they were short form video app launched by the co-founder of Vine. That was probably its best shot at success.
I don't
Do you remember
understand. What does one short video hosting service offer that another doesn't?
All your friends are on it, so when you post your funny dance video, they can all see and like it.
How do they deal with, isn't the lip syncing to copyright music? How do they deal with that?
I think it's
Like, I
because
just don't.
that was one of the reasons why everything was so short.
Oh, okay. How many seconds can you get away with?
Well, technically it's 0, but
That's on YouTube though, right?
well, I mean, it's subjective, so it's not hard and fast. But 15 or 30 seconds is just,
Well, TikTok, if you'll remember, because of the conflicts going on between China and India decided they didn't want anything to do with TikTok anymore. But here's the thing that I didn't know at the time, and this is a rough way to find out about it. TikTok had an office in India, and they had 2,000 employees.
ByteDance is cutting jobs in India amid prolonged TikTok ban. So it was getting kind of popular in India, and then it was like, ooh, this looks kind of dangerous. Let's just go ahead and block that.
So the vast majority of those people are going home. Only the people like the skeleton crew to keep the building going and keep the servers running is all they're keeping. So that really sucks if you work for TikTok India. And that's exactly the kind of thing the Chinese Communist Party was hoping for when they did that. YouTube, like Facebook, decided on January 12th to take the ultimate step and to block the account of a sitting president. He's not allowed to post any videos. Now, they did say, we're going to rethink this. We're going to let this cool down for a little while, and we're going to revisit this. And they keep revisiting it and making the same decision.
YouTube extends Trump's suspension for a second time. The Google-owned platform first suspended Trump on January 12th. They're like, we're not going to make it permanent yet, but yeah, it's not a good time.
I never checked out his YouTube channel. I guess it was all just like speeches and stuff.
I don't know. I didn't want to mess up the algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want that recommendation. Trump should just like start a cooking channel or something.
That would be kind of funny.
Just blow everybody's mind.
These are the best.
Do you think he's
things.
ever cooked before? Isn't he kind of notorious for like not being particularly
yeah,
healthy
because
eater?
his family was rich, weren't they?
Like I thought he was super into fast food, but maybe that's just a meme.
Well, you can't eat that every meal, I don't think, and live. Well, that's a good question. But if he is a
Oh,
terrible
no.
cook, wouldn't that make you more likely to watch it? Just watch Trump just cursing and fumbling through burning himself, his hair all in disarray, covered in flour.
Who doesn't know like what's a whisk? What the hell is a whisk?
That would be fantastic. I would love
I
that.
would watch that.
Yeah. And he keeps like getting the cook who normally operates in his $1 billion kitchen and like scolding her for where things are stored.
I wonder how much Alec Baldwin would charge us for a couple of just a couple of YouTube videos. We could script
I'm
it.
just doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the same. I need the real Donald Trump.
Or maybe he's like, and the final video in that series is like he finally makes something and it's really, really good, like awesome gourmet, like beautiful. And at the very end of it, he puts a flower on it, and then he grabs a bottle of ketchup and just all over it.
Or it would be great if, he made it and there's it's like a big lasagna or something, family size, and Melania and the kids, and they're like, oh, can we try it? And he's just like, no.
No.
I made this. I cannot get my head around a newsletter startup.
That's kind of the new hotness.
Isn't it?
It is.
Why are we not doing it? There is no value to a newsletter startup. Zero. Except there is, and it's a high value, but it's not real. Come on.
Twitter requires newsletter startup review. Now I don't understand review, but there was the other one that they talk about in this article. It was like Byte Stack, or I don't remember. But
Such weird names.
the platform there is really like a social platform for editors and journalists. So the idea is that you build credibility for yourself as a journalist with this other site. And so review or whatever seems to be kind of like that. Like they want to build a site like Twitter, but it's only for credentialed journalists or whatever.
Who decides? Twitter?
The site. Review the site, yeah.
Well, that's not the only thing that Twitter is going to be deciding. Twitter is obviously, if they internally judge what can and cannot be shown on Twitter, which they have done time and time again, they catch a lot of flack for that. So they said, you know what, let's create a new thing, a new forum, and let's call it something really catchy like brown shirts. I mean, Birdwatch.
Twitter launches Birdwatch, a forum to combat misinformation. Twitter said it hopes to build a community of birdwatchers that can eventually help moderate and label tweets in its main product. Now, the article doesn't mention this, but look very carefully at the screenshots. Eventually, when somebody posts a tweet about something, you might have this sort of meta moderation where it's like, this was helpful, or this was not helpful, or this is wrong, or this is whatever. And so tweets sort of end up being labeled by the community with respect to how much misinformation it is, or misunderstanding, or if the person is just being a troll. They sort of see this as a way to combat not really stupid people, although that's sort of a knock-on effect. It's really to try to combat the bots and the trolls.
Now, obviously, the first question that should come to your mind is, who gets to be a brown shirt? And the answer they claim in this article is it's first come, first serve, and there will be no consideration about how many followers you have or what kind of...
But you do have to prove you're a real person.
You got to do the email and the phone number. But other than that... So then that creates a situation where we have sort of like these vigilante fact checkers just swarming all over
What could
Twitter.
possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. Remember the Scottish Wikipedia?
Oh yeah, it's just one guy.
Yeah, it'll be like that.
And it was all fake. It was just like, I want to help, but I have no abilities.
I'm just thinking about like the worst blue hair elderly people that I've known in my lifetime, but adding a little bit of computer savvy to them, and they'll be all about this in their retirement.
I would rather have elderly blue hair than the other kind of blue hair.
What
Maybe
a name too, Birdwatch. I bet someone like an old people group that watches birds, they have an app or something called Birdwatch, and they were really excited about it, and then they see Twitter does this, and you're like, damn it.
If you're the
They're never gonna get
Autobahn
downloaded.
Society, do you sue? Because people are going to get confused and download that app instead of yours?
Yeah.
Well, here's a headline that shouldn't really shock anybody.
Social media damages teenagers' mental health, report says. I was going to substitute mental health with the brain there, but then I thought that was maybe too mean. This is a BBC article, and it talks about how teenagers really obsess over what's going on social media, and social media algorithms are designed to really kind of mess with your head a little bit in the first place. It makes sort of a dangerous combination.
It's interesting because puberty plays such a huge part in this. They say that up until 14, boys and girls tend to suffer equally from social media, but after the age of 14, girls really take it hard. And they reported that a huge percentage of them started having body image issues at 14. And they assume that has to do with looking at all the Instagram hotties.
I would assume so too, especially because almost all of those images are photoshopped in some way or face-tuned. So it's like, I have pores, am I wrong? It's like, no, that's how your skin breathes. Like, everyone has that. You just don't see it in photos.
You know, they say that social media makes you miserable, but I don't use social media, and I'm miserable. Are they really more miserable than me?
I'll just
Maybe you're
spam
just-
things.
I said, maybe you're just really good at misery. Maybe everyone needs to get on your level.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I could teach them something about it. I remember my number. Do you remember yours?
I do.
1724997.
Somebody is doxing you now because that data is public. They're going to find your email address and everything.
That wouldn't be the one I use now.
Okay, that's good.
It's nothing real.
I had a 5-digit number, and I lost it. Like something happened, and I couldn't reset the password. And my replacement number was a 6-digit number, and I was so pissed.
So you saying I could get in here and recover my account?
Yeah.
I should check that out.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder, all those contacts.
Yeah.
Are they still there?
They're there.
Anyway, WhatsApp, of course, you remember that everybody hates WhatsApp. And they're sort of like, we must find other opportunities, other services. The mass exodus must continue. This is probably not the right choice.
Nope. Dropping WhatsApp, nostalgia drives users to ICQ. So this is a really old messaging platform way back in the day. I used to use Talk, but not everybody had to walk my Windows friends through using WinTalk. It wasn't great, but
later on they had the universal chat programs.
Yeah,
I'd switch over to those.
IRC was kind of fun, but also kind of meh. That's
what was that, like 94, 93?
Yeah, it's just somewhere through there.
Yeah, so this is before my time.
I didn't go as far as like trying to re-sign into the account or whatever, but I did find the website where you could like look it up, and I looked myself up, and it's like all my stuff's still there. But I didn't go as far as like actually trying to sign in or anything.
It's weird. It's weird to think that was, like half a lifetime ago. More than half a lifetime ago.
What were you talking about? Social media causing depression and mental health problems.
I was so much happier during the ICQ days.
Yeah.
You have to deal with a lot of bots.
There's a lot of bots.
A lot of bots. Yeah. Well, moving on to nonsense, and this is not a nonsense story. I want to apologize. This is not something you want to joke about, except you got to joke about
funny
it.
word.
Right? Because this sounds terrible. I guess I would do this, but it'd sure be unpleasant.
China starts using an album cover swab to test high-risk people for COVID.
It's apparently more effective.
I guess they've been saying that all along, though, right? They were saying like sewage plants were detecting COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, you said the word.
Yeah, don't say that.
Oh, sorry.
You gotta. It's like
COVID.
I honestly don't know if this is better or worse than tickling your brain with a Q-tip. I mean,
what if it's they do one of those pop-up quick result sites before you get into the concert? You just have to like back yourself into the curtain. And speaking of that area of the body, but not really, this just happens to be an acronym that Google, in all its glory, and by that I mean the AI, decided wasn't okay.
Google Play bans video app for the standard .AS&S subtitle support. The advanced substation alpha files, it said that this has been banned for profanity from the Play Store because it was the algorithm. It wasn't any dealing with that because of course, Google, of course.
Do you feel like, based on this screenshot, somebody just asked this Terminator to smile, but he's like smiling really awkwardly because it's not a genuine smile? It's not touching his eyes.
It's cold, dead eyes.
We talk a lot about meatless products in the nonsense section. I'm just fascinated by where we're going with this whole meatless revolution. And now it's not a new name, certainly, but a big name is partnering up, and they're saying they're going to just flood us with meatless snacks in the coming year. Just you can't wait for it. It's going to be so much meat.
Also, you're not going to be able to afford meat. That's the subtitle.
Speaking of that, before we do the headline, this is a cicada year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The spring, we will be awash in free protein.
They're so loud.
And apparently PepsiCo is going to take advantage of that. PepsiCo and Beyond Meat launch a poorly named joint venture for new plant-based food and drinks.
Is the icon a cow wearing a cape?
Yes, that is what that is supposed to be, I think.
Wow.
Because it's Captain Cow Planet?
But there's no cow in this food.
Well, there is Planet, though. That's the name.
That doesn't make any sense.
So they say they're gonna Planet Partnership is the name of this thing, but like they spell it like SpongeBob.
Captain Planner.
Based on what we know about marketing teams, how many angry phone calls and emails are companies going to get because they capitalized the E?
A lot.
It's like, you never capitalized the E.
Yeah, that was on our branding guide. Did you not see that on page 7 of the branding guide? I could send you another copy of the branding guide.
So yeah, look forward to that, I guess. More fake meats. In China, they maybe have a little bit different taste in television than we do. I don't know if this would fly here, and this is only 2 episodes, but hey, they're doing it.
Genius programmers star in game show, and if you're not really feeling the imposter syndrome this week, I would encourage you to watch these videos.
If you want to feel a little worse about yourself.
I don't think they've got anything. They can't even hold a candle to the Devember entries.
Yeah, the Devember entries are really pretty good.
Unless they actually finish the project.
There's a couple of streams that are archived of Notch, Minecraft developer, doing development, and it really is mind-blowing. Like, he doesn't need documentation or anything, and it's just, if you want to feel really terrible about your programming skills, watch him program.
Yeah, but then I can feel better because I can actually communicate with other humans without making them hate me.
But then you remember his billions of dollars.
Yeah, I would trade
But
it.
remember yesterday, you messaged me and you're like, I had to get on a e-conference, like online call thing, and I came on there and I was the only asshole with a webcam, and I was like, no.
Okay, all right. Remember the first time we did a call with them?
Yeah, it was literally everybody.
Everybody else had a camera but me. So I was like, all right, I'll turn the camera on. And then it's like everybody else turned their camera off.
No one, here's the pro business tip, chat. When you're doing some sort of conference call like that, you always go in with your camera off, because you got to like feel the temperature of the water. And then if a lot of people have theirs on, you turn it on.
But if nobody else does, and then you turn yours on later, is that a power play?
I think
it makes me uncomfortable because I feel like the person can see me.
Here's what you do. You go in with no camera, and then about 30 seconds in, boom, camera. And if anybody else turns their camera on after that, you control them.
This person's easily manipulated. Make a note.
I feel like if they ever remake the American Psycho movie, that's going to be some of the dialogue instead of like the business card stock. It's going to be like the protocol for Zoom meetings.
Those guys, they had to figure out something to do with wildlife, like mapping endangered wildlife and trying to keep them safe with an algorithm. So those 2 days were the subject of that TV show. I don't know if anybody actually killed it or not, but we'll see. One thing that I didn't even bother adding. Did we add a story? I think we added a story before it actually happened.
Yes.
But last week, Flash officially died. I think Mozilla was the last one holding out.
Yep.
Right?
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
And they brought it in. But for those of you who don't remember, a lot of the world, including what you're looking at right now, used to run on Flash. A lot of the world. Sometimes parts of the world that should never have run on Flash.
When Adobe stopped Flash content from running, it also stopped a Chinese railroad. So it turns out the front end for the Chinese railroad management system was written in Flash. And sure enough, at the appointed time, everything stopped working. Fortunately, they had a computer that had been unplugged or whatever, had an old version of the Flash player, so they were able to replace the DLL and get it working again.
They had to get a pirate version.
Oh.
So now, not only are they running Flash to operate a giant train, they're running an old pirated version.
That definitely doesn't contain malware.
And yeah, definitely don't worry about the people's lives that you're literally holding in your hands by running your train stuff on that.
It's impressive though how quickly they got that back up.
Yeah. Well, it was the better part of. I'm sure it was not impressive to the people who were trapped in the train station.
Yeah.
If you have cameras in your home, cameras in the home I kind of understand, but cameras in the bedroom or any part of the home where you might be nude, what are you thinking? Because yeah, okay, it might be really secure, there might be really good encryption, and you might have a professional on the other end monitoring it, but guess what? They're not always that professional.
A home security worker hacked into surveillance systems to watch people have sex. And by hacked, it's just really guessing the passwords and, leaving...
No, he was the installer.
Leaving an account, for the...
He would add his email to their live account that would allow them to look at their cameras at any time.
Wow.
And he admitted that... How did he choose his victims? Well, he was an installer as well. So when he showed up at the house, there was a good-looking girl there.
Oh.
He would add his email address, and it was purely for gratification purposes.
Ugh.
Yuck.
Yeah. He's looking at some time, and Telesforo Aviles, I guess is how you pronounce that. We won't be seeing him for a while. The electric car, one of the interesting things about it is I think don't you think we'll get to a point with the electric car where the body is basically interchangeable?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean, we could do that with internal combustion cars, but they don't.
Like the old Back to the Future movie, it's like, I'll hover convert your car. I think we'll get to a point where you get an electric conversion kit and they just replace like the wheels and a couple other things, and it's fly-by-wire.
Yeah. So not surprising, although I wonder do you think the nostalgia for this is still fresh enough, or have we exceeded the nostalgia horizon for this particular item?
No, I think this will probably be one of the first ones. I bet you that somebody does an electric conversion of this vehicle, and that becomes kind of a popular like subgenre. It's like, oh look, I've got a 67 Bel Air convertible that I've converted to electric, something crazy like that.
What if you could get a late 80s Trans Am electric?
Oh, that would be a lot of fun. The DeLorean might be coming back as an electric car, although strictly speaking, that was a hydrogen fuel cell kind of a thing, I think, because there were like hydrogen turbines and stuff from the 80s. So the DeLorean might be making a comeback. This is not gonna, like, this is like one memo that was leaked, and it was like, hey, we could do this as an electric, and it's just like, okay, and it was turned into a story. This is kind of a nothing burger right now.
Well, it's the nonsense section.
Yeah.
You lower your skepticism. Yeah, you gotta suspend disbelief. And these two people were not willing to suspend disbelief. I don't know what made them suspect this, and I don't know if what they're saying is true. But if it is, it's shocking.
Subway's tuna does not contain tuna, a lawsuit claims, saying the ingredients were not tuna and not fish. Subway's tuna isn't actually tuna. In fact, it might not even be fish, two people claim in a federal lawsuit filed recently. We'll see. We'll see how that works out.
So they claim... I'm sorry, Krista.
No, I read this story elsewhere, and I just don't understand the not fish part. Like, what is it if it's not fish?
I think they're insinuating that it's one of those like Beyond Meat kind of things. Like they've figured out a blend of non-meat items.
A little bit of chicken and a little bit of protein, some mayo, and it's kind of like fish.
I guess that would be considerably cheaper than tuna, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Anyway, they claim that they took this to 2 separate labs and had it tested without telling them what it was. And it came back not tuna or fish. Subway has obviously answered this, claim and said that it's completely false. And their tuna is 100% tuna, except for the mayonnaise that they add.
Wonder if their supplier figured it out. It was lab-grown tuna the whole time.
It's just making me want a tuna sandwich.
Technically, not tuna and not fish could be dolphin.
Oh.
It's probably going to be something dark like that.
Are you still playing Cyberpunk?
I haven't had any chance to play it since Friday.
I have not turned it on in a long time.
There's 2 patches now. There was the big patch, and then there's the patch to the other patch, because that patch had some problems.
I don't know. It's hard to get excited about it when I have all these indie games in my Steam library. But there is one new feature that might bring you back. I'm not too interested in this one.
Cyberpunk developers ask players to please stop having sex with Keanu Reeves. So it turns out there was a mod that allowed that. Although I don't know how that would work because he doesn't technically exist. You just sort of see him, but he's not really there. Nobody else can see him.
Listen, you can have mods that turn your followers in Skyrim into anime schoolgirls. Anything is possible with mods, and that's the joy.
Well, there's the, what do they call them? Joy toys or something like that in the game?
Yeah.
The prostitutes. And there's male and female. So all they did was take the male prostitute skin, pop the Keanu skin onto it, and you could still go through
Neat.
the animations.
But they ask, it's like, please don't do that. I'm sure Keanu Reeves is looking at this like, what have I done?
You probably don't get any voice lines.
No. I don't know what they expected. Like, when they came to Keanu Reeves with this role and they were like, we want to model you for a video game, like, surely that had to come up at some point. Like, hey, people tend to mod these games and they may do things with your model that you're not comfortable with.
I think it's weird, yes, but I like to think that I would just be flattered by that.
I think he probably would be. And they're kind of
I feel
like, oh, it's funny. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel weird about it, but I also would know ahead of time, like, that's a risk you take for this kind of thing. Like, there's a virtual version of yourself that you don't control.
Are you going to keep that same mentality, Krista, when the deep fakes roll out?
I know, I feel uncomfortable about that too.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Not really, I guess.
Not really, because in that case, you're not really consenting to having a deepfake made.
Well, he technically wasn't either.
I mean, he was consenting to have. I guess he wasn't consenting to have the sexual parts done. Yeah.
Well, you're consenting to putting your face out there right now, and that's all they need.
I know, and I don't like that. I think about that all the time, actually. That there's like tons of footage of all three of us all over the internet.
The AOC deepfakes are amazing at this point. They're really getting good at them.
Because it's just, there's so much raw source footage.
And she's pretty enough to match what they're putting her on. Like, it looks real. You can't do that with Pelosi.
I mean, that's the dissatisfying thing about replaying through Cyberpunk 2 is that it's not a lot different. Like, you make all kinds of different choices, and it's just like, it's basically the same.
Yeah, well. Turns out, you know what else that's true for? Stock market.
It was rigged all along.
You never could win. I love animal stories. I always throw animal stories into the nonsense, and an uplifting animal story is better than a sad animal story. This one's kind of in between.
Yeah.
Leeds ferret survives 100 minutes in the washing machine. So he snuck into the washing machine, apparently. And he was hurt pretty bad. He had a collapsed lung and some other stuff. They didn't think he was going to make it, but he made it.
I would feel so bad if that was my ferret.
I guess ferrets don't make a lot of noise.
Not really, no.
I'm pretty sure if one of my cats was in the washing machine, I would know.
They would be bellowing at the top of their
I
lungs.
would think when you put it on, you would hear it, because it would be a different like sound than just your clothes going around.
That has to be terrifying, though, if you're that ferret. Because think about the cycles, right? The water starts to rise. And you're like, oh, what's going on? Then the soap shows up. And that's a whole different hell. And then you start spinning. And then during the rinse cycle, you're like, oh, God, it's over. And it does it again. Poor little guy. I hope that they make the rest of his life very comfortable.
Do you think he's talking to his brother, too? It said that he has a brother that he's, like, recovering with. Do you think he, like, talks about it to him?
His brother probably doesn't believe any of it, right?
They put me in this box and it filled with water. They give us treats.
You promised you'd stop the drugs, Bill. Stack Overflow was hacked in 2019, and they didn't get too much stuff. They got some of the source code and stuff like that. But it's funny because we found out an interesting detail about that hack.
Stack Overflow. The guide for that, it was advice from none other than Stack Overflow.
Do you think he went back and upvoted the top comment and marked it as correct?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm having this kind of a, what do you think? And then it's like, oh, yeah, here's some help. It's like, you should probably try this. It's like, oh, that worked.
He just put a comment that was like, thanks, I figured it out. And then we never know what his solution was.
Krista, one thing that I know that you sort of obsess about because you constantly mention it anytime this topic is brought up is whether or not you smell like cheese.
Oh yeah, I think this is interesting. I've heard that white people smell like cheese, and I don't know if that's true, but I find it interesting to think about.
How many American dollars would you pay to find out how much you smell like cheese?
Maybe like 10, 20 bucks.
It's going to cost you $150.
Oh, that's too much. I don't care that much, but I would be interested. Okay, sorry, am I reading title? Japanese entrepreneur finds a niche offering scientific, if brutal, body odor analysis. It's, that's something. Look how smug he looks.
I feel like I'm doing as much as I humanly can to counteract my smell. I'm not sure what I would add to my routine if I got a really bad report here. I would just be more paranoid.
A daily, just put a little splash of bleach on the sponge. Just,
That'd probably just dry out your skin and make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And regular deodorant is already so drying.
This guy is the guy that figured it out. He looks young.
Well, it's that makes it sound like that, somebody's smelling you and telling you. No, he's using a gas chromatograph to tell you exactly what you smell like.
This is, although, translating the numbers to actual smell, there would have to be a big data set for that, don't you think?
No, well, they already have that data set because it's a use for forensics and other stuff. It's like, there's a weird smell in here. What is it? It's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, it turns out it's this kind of octane. The criminal worked at a, petrol refinery plant.
So they point out diacetyl is old person smell. Old people do have a smell.
They do,
Yeah.
Well, that's something to look forward to, isn't it?
It says, toward the end of the article, it says women in their 30s and 40s are its main clientele.
Oh, Krista.
It could be me.
What if you're developing a funk right now?
I might be. For most of my adult clients, their anxiety begins in school and dogs them throughout their lives. I don't know.
I have a feeling this is going to be like one of those things where it's like, I'm not a crazy person. I was tested. It's like, I don't smell bad. I was tested.
Yeah, and just because it says, you smell okay then, what, just doesn't mean your deodorant hasn't worn off now. Maybe just slack a little bit more on.
Oh, I imagine
Time to reapply.
You got to go in there with nothing on, right? You're getting the raw smell.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that's your smell profile? It's going to be like a hexadecimal, and that goes on your dating profile.
I was going to say, because there's the whole pheromone smell thing too. Do you think they could do a dating service eventually?
That would be fun. Well, back to the Capitol attack. This is a very interesting thing because a lot of people have sort of thrown it out there. There's we're pretty sure that there are agent provocateurs in this crowd. These are people who are definitely working with the government, and they're trying to make things worse and stir this up so that they can create new laws. And then we learn this.
Reuters had this. Reuters. Just pay attention to that for a second. The Proud Boys leader was a prolific informer for law enforcement. And I was like, sensationalist headline, right? No, go read the article.
Real.
This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible.
For the better part of 10 years, he has been setting up narcotics busts, doing undercover buys and sells, and ratting. He is a huge rat, a massive rat. I wonder would the other Proud Boys be okay with that?
We're about to find out.
In the transcript about this, he said, I don't recall any of this. So he seems to think that they would not be okay with it, I assume.
I imagine they would not, yes. I don't think that crowd is a big fan of... although it is weird because that right-wing thing is that's one of the things that... I don't consider myself right-wing. I know most of you in the comments do. But one of the things that drives me crazy about the right-wing is how much they just fillet law enforcement with everything that they say. Why?
Yeah.
What about any of this makes you think they're on your side?
I don't know that we'll see that as much from the right wing anymore after the riot
thing, I guess.
I don't know. People's memories are pretty short.
Yeah.
GameStop.
I gotta say, I did not read the last stories. I had to do a conference call. I forgot to read the last stories. I don't even know what this one's about.
Anti-Putin snowman protest leads to Russian activists' detention. So there's a law that says that you can't get together, a protest. The snowmen were treated as getting together for a protest, like they were real people. So this protester put it outside of their house, and they were arrested on a law that has to do with, congregation of protesters.
Snowmen being the protesters.
Yeah.
Where was it was another one of those ex-Soviet states where the guy had the snowman that got arrested for that one.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that was.
Biden even told Putin on their call that he should release Navalny. I don't know how to say his name. The guy that they tried to poison, but he survived, but they arrested him on something else. Biden was like, no, you need to release him immediately. Even the EU Supreme Court has called for him to be released.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be released.
Probably not.
Apparently one of these signs says down with the Tsar. I'm like, would that upset Putin? Because wasn't the whole thing, that they don't want a Tsar anymore?
It's amazing to me how thin the skins of these despots is. Like Jinping, he can't handle Winnie the Pooh.
I mean, if people compared me to Winnie the Pooh, it'd be kind of flattering.
That's kind of like a compliment in some ways. I would think, because you're cuddly, you're kind. Like
I would
live in a forest.
I would love to have Pooh's outlook on life. I mean,
I would say that when it comes to your relationship with food, you and Pooh are right on the same level. I will say though, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but your actions in the past week in your personal life. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're basically a saint at this point. I'm pretty sure that there's you've got your compulsions, and I think that's one of them. But at this point, I'm so impressed by it. If you ever need that, I'm going to do it for you, just because I feel like the world owes you something.
It's fine. It's really not any.
People don't know how kind you actually are, Wendell. They might have an inkling, but they don't really know.
It's just basic human decency. Now, I don't expect other human beings to do it, but
dude, just go to the nursing home right now and see what other people do in that situation.
I'm juggling that too, and it's just the both of them at the same time is a little challenging. So I don't know. It's fine. I appreciate that, but it's I don't know. It wouldn't get done if I didn't do it, so it's got to be done.
But in most cases, it doesn't get done.
In most cases, it does not get done, and I would prefer not to know about that.
Engagement challenge chat. Put comments about nice things Wendell has said or done over the years.
No, don't do that.
Put a comment about what you think we're talking about.
Also good. Yeah, both of those prompts.
And our final story. As we emerge into 2021, the movie industry, they're kind of at a position where they're either going to have to open back up or just go out of business, right? Although I think, AMC,
they got
new funding.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden,
yeah.
lenders were willing to give them a lot of money. So they say they're good till fall. But they are thinking about some of these movies they've had in the can for a long time. They're like, okay, let's finally roll these out. But there's an interesting problem when you have a movie from last year because technology moves really fast.
James Bond film, No Time to Die, further delayed to reshoot Nokia product placements. So they've got some clips here. These are last year's phones. Nokia paid for product placement. They don't care about last year's phone. They're not even making last year's phone. So, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you think he'll look like a year older?
I mean, he's definitely shown his age, but he still looks pretty good.
But I'm thinking for the reshoots, will there be a very obvious change, I wonder?
No, they'll fix it with CGI, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Fun. They might not even have to have him show up. Just deep fake him into those scenes. Yeah.
I mean, it probably, for the digital effects people, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal to replace the phone.
Yeah. This is interesting. I remember we did a story about this a while back, a couple years ago. But if you don't know, this is a big deal in movies. When you see people using phones in movies, there are a lot of rules. And one of the most hilarious ones is that Apple will not allow a villain to use an iPhone.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know what we need to do for our next low-budget thriller.
Break that rule?
Yeah.
That'd be great for a comedy movie if you didn't want to play by those rules, if you just had a toy phone. But no one in the in-universe ever acknowledged it.
Except the thing about that, Krista, is you can make tons and tons of money by not using a toy phone. And Nokia will give everybody on the set a phone.
Oh, and then you look like the asshole who's denying the crew a new phone.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
I guess the only thing that I can say at this point is buy GameStop.
What if it's already crashed back down to like $5 by now?
Let's get it back up there.
Yeah, hold. Yeah, we're recording this in the past as a reminder, so we don't know the future yet.
It's probably already wrecked. Let's go see.
Yeah, before we leave.
Oh yeah, it's way down. We checked when you were doing your call.
Oh, it's back up again. Looks like.
What's it at?
It's at 316, but it was lower than that earlier.
Mine's still loading.
Why are you on Reddit?
Party mega thread. Oh, they usually have the thing honor to the diamond hands.
Oh, I just googled GME.
Yes,
Shield wall.
Google. This is 15 minutes old. 317.
It looks like it's trending upward because everybody's really excited about 320.
Well, it languished at around 2:25 p.m. It's rallying back.
But that's still not as bad as it was yesterday. Yesterday, it crashed hard.
No, it closed at 197, see?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
wait, what?
That was yesterday, Thursday.
Closed at 197 yesterday.
Oh.
And then we're back up to...
But in the middle of the day, wasn't it like down around 100?
Let's see. This was the 28th. The low was 132.
That was, I think, when what's their name did their thing.
That was 11:30. Yeah, that's when everybody turned it off.
Yeah. That's a blatant market manipulation there.
Diamond fists, right? Is that the meme?
I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't know. I just see it spammed in every thread.
I haven't actually gone to Wall Street Bets.
They've got some hilarious
Pretty dangerous.
gifs. They did the one, the Avengers end scene with Thanos. They redid that scene as a GIF, and they labeled everything, and so it was like Wall Street Bets, and then like the people show up, and then Doctor Strange is Elon Musk. So like he comes flying in as Doctor Strange. It's like that's Elon Musk coming to Wall Street Bets aids against Marvin
Thanos.
Capital, who's Thanos.
I never.
My favorite version of that is the Pixar one where it's finding Nemo, and it's the very end scene where he's like swim down, but instead of saying swim down, it says hold, and I'll pick it out.
I never made it all the way through Endgame.
Oh yeah. Well, you should have at least watched the battle. The battle was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, maybe someday. Maybe a time when I'm just sitting at home with nothing to do.
Yeah, it was just.
When would that ever happen?
just watch it on the crapper. It won't take long.
That sounds like some blood circulation issues. If you go, what's that? A 3-hour movie?
No, I meant just the battle.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right, Krista, why don't you give us a activist investor goodbye?
emojis to the moon. Bye.